Tonight we have a chance to say, yeah, you're right. We're too extreme. We're too wild. We're too out of control. We're too full of our own shit. Or we have a chance to say, hey, fuck you, you're wrong. Fuck you, we're right. Because believe me, this is the dance. Start the show.
From pillar to post and coast to coast, this is The Law.
Here we go.
Your number one source for professional wrestling and mixed martial arts, news, interviews, and opinion.
We live for this.
With Dan the Mouth Lovranski.
Take it as the gospel.
Jason Agnew.
Don't make him angered, please.
And John Pollock.
Where's the producer?
Live audio wrestling.
Now it's time for streaming stuff. It's the...
I can't believe it.
Brothers and sisters, cats and chicks, we got to get down to it tonight. It's a new year, but there is still an evil stink in the air that we have to deal with. That's right, it's all the garbage, filth, crap, junk, and shit that made us angry, frustrated, depressed, and just downright pissed off at pro wrestling. Yes, it is the worst of 2010. Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Law, live audio wrestling, broadcasting across the world on the Score, Sirius 98. I'm Dan Lovranski, back with a tanned John Pollock and an Elvis-loving Jason Agnew, ladies and gentlemen, straight from Las Vegas. We are back to get down to it here for another 2 hours. It's pro wrestling, mixed martial arts, but tonight, Jay, we're stinking the joint out.
You got it, Mouth. I got a strong feeling, and it's going to be our TNA tribute show on tonight's program as we present our worst of 2010 in professional wrestling and mixed martial arts. Plus, we've got all our regular features, Dave Meltzer and the Wrestling Observer Extra, tight about trivia for your chance to win the official live audio wrestling worst prize package of the year.
That's funny.
I'm just going to tease it now.
Yes, don't give it away yet.
Not till later. And along with that, we want your feedback, guys. We want your calls. We want your emails. We want, for the love of God, get on Facebook and bitch and complain on our wall about the worst of pro wrestling and MMA this year.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We get to do it all year round, but tonight is your chance. We want to hear from you. 1-888-9-HARDCORE. That's the magic number. That's 1-888-942-7326. Emails, it's as simple as law@liveaudiowrestling.com. And of course, Jay is monitoring the Law Facebook page. You can leave your comments there as well. All right, kiddies, we are off and running once again. So let's get to all the wrestling and MMA news of the week first, right here on Live Audio Wrestling on the Score, Sirius 98.
This is the professional wrestling and mixed martial arts news of the week.
All right, for those of you who missed it, the WWE revealed this week that Shawn Michaels will be their first inductee into the 2011 Hall of Fame. Now, already both Kevin Nash and Sean Waltman are teasing a Click reunion at the event.
AJ Styles' legit injury, which took him off the Genesis pay-per-view last Sunday, ended up being a torn hip flexor and labrum. It was announced on the show that he would be out for 4 to 6 weeks, but Styles himself feels it could be more like 6 to 8 weeks. It also turns out the reason he gave on the pay-per-view for the injury, which was chasing his son on his four-wheeler, is indeed the real reason for the injury.
That sounded so lame on the pay-per-view when he said that. Former TNA Knockouts champion Taylor Wilde has announced her retirement from pro wrestling. Wilde, at the age-old 24, says she will be going back to school. Her final match is set to take place in San Francisco against Alicia Flash on February 5th at the John O'Connell High School.
You'd think she'd do a match here. Being from Toronto,
right,
you know?
Right. Well,
I'm surprised. Stevie Richards is done with TNA, and he announced on his Twitter this week, commenting that he had a great talk with Terry Taylor and Vince Russo before leaving.
Finally, EV2 is done. Ring of Honor standout El Generico worked a tryout match for TNA this past week against Amazing Red. That was at the tapings. Generico was granted permission to take the tryout by Ring of Honor, who still currently hold him under contract.
WWE is releasing a new D-Generation X DVD entitled The Final Conflict. That'll be out on April 5th, 2011. It'll be a 3-disc set focusing on their more recent years, including feuds with The Legacy, Jericho, and new interviews with Triple H and Shawn Michaels. Yay. That'll be on our worst of list next year. Yippers.
Just might make the list next year. Switching over to the world of MMA, ladies and gentlemen, the UFC 129 card, which will be here in Toronto at the Rogers Centre, it's shaping up with a list of heavily rumored bouts featuring a strong Canadian contingent. Here's the latest on what we've heard about for the show.
UFC welterweight champion Georges St. Pierre will be taking on Jake Shields. Randy Couture versus Lyoto Machida. Phil Davis takes on Matt Hamill. Claude Patrick versus Daniel Roberts. Scott Pearson versus Brian Foster. Mark Bocek takes on Ben Henderson. Jason McDonald goes toe-to-toe with Ryan Jensen. Yves Jabouin versus Pablo Garza. Ivan Menjivar versus Charlie Valencia. Rory McDonald takes on Nate Diaz. That'll be a decent one there. And John McDessie, yeah, that's right,
Yep.
versus Kyle Watson. So basically, Mouth, it's Canadian versus non-Canadian, aside from, I believe, 2 bouts.
Well, yeah, there's 11 fights listed there. 9 of them have Canadian.
And kudos to the UFC for doing
Yeah.
that. It makes
Smart.
total
Yeah,
sense.
Absolutely. Dana White also confirmed this week that if London, Ontario's Mark Hominick gets past his bout with George Roop at the UFC Fight Night 23, Fight for the Troops 2, which is this coming Saturday, he will receive a title shot against featherweight champion Jose Aldo at UFC 129 in Toronto. That would be a good fight.
Indeed.
Yeah.
The UFC held a press conference in New York City this week to promote the legalization of MMA in New York. In attendance were Dana White, Lorenzo Fertitta, lightweight champion and New Jersey native Frankie Edgar, and Madison Square Garden president Scott O'Neill.
The UFC presented an economic study that projected MMA events to generate over $23 million a year and 212 new jobs in the state of New York. They also stated that fans can expect at least 2 events in New York, including one at Madison Square Gardens, within the first year of legalization.
That's always the argument I made about Toronto, is just the tourism and
Yeah.
how much tourism
absolutely.
and jobs are created by
Absolutely,
UFC.
absolutely.
And it's glad that they're finally coming to TO. Good luck with New York. Moving on here, heavyweights Brock Lesnar and Junior Dos Santos have officially been announced as the coaches of The Ultimate Fighter Season 13, which will begin filming this month and airs March 30th on Spike TV and Rogers Sportsnet. The season will culminate with a #1 contenders bout between the two coaches sometime in June, with odds of it taking place at UFC 131 in Vancouver. Surprised Brock is coming back up north after all the craziness that
That's
transpired.
true.
with
Well,
his
he's going to
injury.
bring his own doctors,
I
probably.
guess so, yeah. Dana White also confirmed that the bout will not be contested for an interim heavyweight title as originally speculated.
And MMA Weekly reported this week that negotiations are taking place for a rematch between Nem Fan and Leonard Garcia at UFC Fight Night 24 on March the 26th. Their first bout back on December the 4th resulted in a controversial split decision win for Garcia that angered many, including commentator Joe Rogan, who went on to criticize the Nevada State Athletic Commission on the live telecast.
According to Heavy.com, a lightweight bout between Clay Guida and Anthony Pettis is in the works for either UFC 130 or 131. This will be an exciting bout. Pettis was originally set to take on the winner of the Gray Maynard Frankie Edgar lightweight championship bout from 125, but of course that ended in a draw.
Right. Now, rather than waiting for the outcome of their rematch, Pettis has opted to put this title shot in jeopardy by taking this bout in the meantime. Guida is coming off a submission victory over Takanori Gomi at UFC 125.
CEO Scott Corker announced this week that bouts in the upcoming Strikeforce heavyweight tournament will be 3 rounds, and Alistair Overeem's title will not be on the line. Only the finals of the tournament will be 5 rounds, with the winner receiving a newly created Strikeforce Grand Prix championship and an eventual title shot against Overeem, unless, of course, he wins it himself,
Right.
because Overeem is in the tournament.
That's right.
This is ridiculous. If a fight goes to a draw, a 4th independent judge will declare a winner based on the fighter's overall performance in the bout, ensuring a winner for every match.
And former UFC champion Jens Pulver has accepted a fight against Mark Lindquist on January the 22nd for XFO 38 in Woodstock, Illinois. Pulver is winless in his last 6 bouts, while Lindquist is winless in his last 4. Pulver also has a bout coming up on March 5th for the upstart Chicago Cage Fighting Championship.
This is Hulk Hogan's Hall of Fame ring, brother. This is my life. This will give you the power of the universe. This will make you the strongest mortal man on this earth. Yes, sir. This will be good to you. Yes, sir. This will protect you. This will love you. This will guide you. And this will make you the god of wrestling.
If you want him back, all you have to do is ask.
I have been asking. Now give me back my father.
What is a mustache? It's a little bit of hair growing over the upper lip. I don't have one. Nobody else here has one. But you know what? A mustache is for a real man. See, of all these people here, I have the best mustache of them all.
Let me get my grapes, man. I love my grapes.
And starting this moment from now, from this moment on,
This will be the moment. Starting now.
And I quote,
I know way too many people here right now that I didn't know last week.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the program. That's an excellent montage to get things started there. I think several of our picks are probably going to touch on many of the stuff we just heard in that there as we go through the worst here of 2010. This is always a good cathartic kind of show.
It's like a cleansing.
Yeah, exactly. Get the crap out of your system for one last time.
Big fucking enema.
It is. It's to clean everything out. We got to do it. It has to be done. It's therapeutic. So.
All right, so let's get it started then. It's our worst of 2010 in the world of mixed martial arts and professional wrestling, and we start things off with worst wrestler, much like we did on our best of show. I do have the list of last year's selections here with me, and for worst wrestler, that is our first category for the guy side, worst male wrestler. Mouth, you picked Great Khali. I picked Hornswoggle, and John, you also picked Great Khali. Now, Khali wasn't around much this year, or he probably would have got the nod.
Yeah, he wasn't around enough. I picked David Otunga.
Oh, really?
Because he's part of the major angle.
Yep.
He was basically they went with him because he had a Hollywood connection, and I hate it when Vince does that kind of shit.
Yep.
And he's bad. He's shitty in the ring, and I think he's shitty on the mic. So
does that mean he'll be world champion in 2 years?
Yeah, probably.
That's right.
Probably.
It really develops.
Yeah.
John.
I went with David Otunga as well. I thought he was just he just takes all of my energy out of a broadcast when he shows up on the screen. He's a terrible talker. He's even worse in the ring, and he's been given this unbelievable gimmick, and he's still just floundering. And I think he's just terrible, and it makes me worried that what if this guy, they do get behind him, and he eventually does get to the level where the Miz did? Because I thought the same about the Miz 3 or 4 years ago.
Well, that's the thing you have to think about in this era, because the guys don't have that opportunity to spend 10 years in the trenches working, and it is going to happen once in a while, like Miz, where guy's going to come along, he's going to stink out the joint at first, but give him that experience and a chance to build up, and he works hard at it. Otunga, though, I don't know.
Hey, kudos to him if he does, right? I mean, Miz was...
Absolutely. I'll admit it if he does it,
Going from one list to the other, show to the other in like 3 years, like the Miz did. My worst male wrestler, I like to call this guy the polar opposite of the Dos Equis man, who's the most interesting man in the world. The most uninteresting man in the world to me is Rhino. And everything he touches is shit.
Yeah.
And
he had a bad year.
I do not like anything this guy is involved in. As a Rhino, you make my worst of list. Worst female wrestler is our next category. And last year, Mouth, you picked Lacey Von Erich. I picked Michelle McCool. And John, you picked Jenna Maraska, even though she was in one match.
It was enough.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, she comes up in this list a couple times.
I think you guys are probably going to know where I go, because I've been crabbing about her, because they were putting her in the ring there for a little while a few months ago. So I'm Kelly. I'm sorry, but Kelly does not deserve
You don't like
her.
her.
Not as a wrestler, not as a talker, not at all. I think she's, even this stupid boyfriend-girlfriend thing with Drew McIntyre, everything that comes out of her mouth, it's she's the epitome of the person that has to read the script and promo. She can't make anything sound natural.
That's why she is good for that Tiffany role that she's currently playing right now.
I don't know. Just the few matches she was in this year, awful, terrible, horrible. So that's my pick.
John.
I went with Lacey Von Erich. She was just, to me, a brand new standard of shitty female wrestler. So bad that she not only quit TNA but the entire industry this year. So
and
good
consider
riddance.
the pedigree.
Yes.
Right? Well, consider the pedigree. Something did not get passed on there.
Yeah, there you go. So no more Lacey Von Erich, who will hopefully not repeat in 2011.
I went with Alicia Fox.
Yeah.
I can't stand her. There's nothing good about her.
Can you believe they showed her on SmackDown this week as that wedding planner from 3 years ago? They didn't acknowledge that was Alicia Fox.
That's right. Yeah. So, yes, she is my words. After that one promo she cut with the undefined women's champion.
I had that in there today, but it's a title bout sound effect. So.
Oh, okay.
Have to cut it down.
Next up, we have worst tag team. Last year, Mouth, you picked Mark Henry and MVP, and John and I both decided on DX. This year, Mouth, where are you headed?
I'm going with this is the first of many probably TNA ones here.
Yep.
I'm going with Eric Young and Orlando Jordan.
Yep.
I just friggin' Eric Young. He's such a great, talented guy. I really loved him when he was playing more the heel, hard ass guy there.
Yes.
And then they just made him back to the goofy guy. And now you have Orlando Jordan with the bisexual character.
Well, he has a hard ass gimmick too.
Yeah, there you go. I just hate it. And the fact that it's a great example of what TNA is hurting from is that they'll start something and then they'll ignore it. And then they'll play with it for a while and then they'll ignore it. And it's just terrible team. And the other matches were shitty.
I agree with you. I picked them as well because Eric Young, I mean...
So talented.
He's
just
great.
wasted in this shit. You know?
He was in that gimmick where he was... What was it called when he was with the tracksuit? They were all in the same tracksuit?
World Elite.
World Elite was a great gimmick for him.
Yeah.
And he was seen as serious, and
I
you thought he
liked
was
it.
going somewhere.
I liked it, yeah.
And no. So I picked them as well. John?
I stayed in TNA, but
Okay.
I spread it out. I went with Gunner and Murphy.
Yeah.
I hate these two, and I
Yeah.
don't know which is which. They are, to me, just the epitome of a faceless group.
They're the new Harris twins.
Yes.
Did they actually even have any matches?
They've had a
Okay,
handful of matches
okay.
here and there. They had a handicap match with Samoa Joe.
Yeah, now they're just fodder to get thrown around.
Yeah.
You know?
Just in an industry where there's so few regular jobs for guys, these two are employed.
Worst mic worker last year on this program was a clean sweep for Tiffany. Now, Tiffany is no longer with the company, so we're going to pick someone new. At least I am. Mouse, where'd you head to?
I'm picking someone new. Yeah, I'm picking somebody that's been around actually a long time, but he was involved in a couple feuds this year where he had to do a lot of talking, and I think his style of promos is incredibly outdated in 2010 or 11, and maybe Curtis Iakea could still make it work, but Kane, to me, I friggin' hate Kane's promos.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Despite the feud with Taker, I hated that whole angle, and I hated the promos. I hated the promos in the Edge feud. Like, I just don't think his style works anymore in this day and age, and I think it comes across as just corny, convoluted, and he really never has anything good to say.
Okay, John?
I went with Dixie Carter.
Yeah.
I just wasn't a fan of her promos at all, specifically when they were introducing EV2. And it was just, to me, way too forced. I mean, Dixie Carter has a role, and it should not be on camera. I'm not a fan of her speaking ability in the least.
I picked the most uninteresting man in the world, Rhino.
Yeah.
It's going to have a big year.
Yeah, he's having a big year on my list. Next up, we have the award for Worst Announcer. Last year, Mouth and I both picked Michael Cole, and John, you picked Todd Grisham. This year, where are we headed?
I don't know, man. John interviewed him just a little while ago, and he sounded really good, insightful, and made it think like he actually thinks about it. But when I watch Impact, I'm sorry, but Taz, I think he's terrible. To me, he doesn't add anything to the product. He seems to 95% of the time just echo whatever Tenay says, and then hums and haws afterwards. Like, I just think he does a terrible job, and I really, especially with the EV2 stuff, I thought he was even more annoying than usual, and I thought he was trying to work with the angle, but I don't know. Cole is bad and Stryker is bad, but I think Taz is worse than all of them.
All right, John.
I did go with Matt Stryker. I found that him specifically, because it didn't happen just once, it happened multiple times with the three of us, where we would be halfway through a pay-per-view, and we were focusing on Jerry Lawler and Matt Stryker fighting back and forth, and to me, that's not what I'm spending $45 for, or $55 on HD. Matt Stryker at one point was a very competent announcer, and he decided over the last 18 months where he was going to throw out these ridiculous facts that even the common viewer at home could not even fathom, these ridiculous statements he was making, and to me, it took away from the matches. You put the focus on this guy, which is not the role of an announcer, and he generally just became an annoyance on pay-per-view after pay-per-view, and he somewhat toned this down over the last month or two, but I just found he ruined a numerous amount of pay-per-view matches and just bickering with Jerry Lawler, and it just drove me nuts.
Very true.
Yeah, the whole WWE commentator situation is just all over the place, and I mean, I didn't like that as well. I, however, agreed with Mouth. I went with Taz merely because I keep sitting there and looking at it and knowing that Don West was developing a heel character last year, and now Taz is sitting there. And
he's just not doing anything to enhance the product. Like, I feel sorry for Tenay because he has to do all the work.
Worst non-wrestling performer on last year's program was a clean sweep to the same person that
Tiffany.
had the worst mic skill. Tiffany swept it last year.
Yeah.
This year, I suspect that she will not. Where should we go, Mouth?
I'm going to go with someone that's already been mentioned, actually. And once again, with TNA, Dixie Carter. Absolutely horrible. Just like John said with her promo stuff, does not deserve to be out there. Does not come across as any kind of believable authority figure that she's supposed to be, and just gets, I don't know, just terrible. She's got no presence. She doesn't know how to talk, and she's made some really bad decisions as well.
That she has, yeah. All right, John.
This guy was only around for about 3 months, but it was enough to just cast a horrible, horrible cloud over my interest in TNA. Not that there's other factors, but I went with Bubba the Love Sponge.
Oh, yeah. Good choice. Yeah,
I forgot that this guy was even part of TNA
terrible.
this past year. I just didn't like his shtick coming on to a wrestling show. I mean, he would routinely just refer to people as marks and just, he recently did this big rant against Hollywood actors invading radio, stating, I'm not a trained actor, so I'm not going to go to Hollywood. Don't come to my home. You're not a trained professional wrestler or an announcer, so please stay away. I'm not a fan.
My pick here was Hornswoggle, because anything I know he does wrestle, but he's pretty much used as a character, and anything he touches is awful. The vignettes backstage with Teddy Long, just absolutely and utterly terrible. If I never saw Hornswoggle again, I would be completely happy.
I would be happy.
Looks great.
I would have no problem with that.
Most underutilized performer is where we head to next, as we're not having the worst Raw GM this year, which was on our list last year. Most underutilized performer. Mouth, you had MVP. I had Jack Swagger, and John had the Motor City Machine Guns on our charts last year. But your most underutilized performer this year, Dan Lovranski?
I have a couple. The one who's not even with the company anymore, and actually the same guy I picked last year, MVP. It's just like the guy's freaking incredibly talented, great promos, crowd loves him, and they just buried him. And I had my honorable mention or whatever. I had Swagger.
Swagger, so repeats of last year.
Yeah, they're just guys that I thought have potential and that got the MVP. I mean, it was a long convoluted thing, but Swagger, I thought he had potential, and then they seem to if the guy doesn't go supernova, bright star right away, they just don't seem to want to stick with him. And you got to stick with these guys and let them develop and stuff. And I just think, especially lately, Swagger's just been totally lost in the mix.
Yeah, absolutely. No question about it. John?
I went with Daniel Bryan. I felt that right now, especially in the mid-card in the WWE, you really need that guy who can put in those minutes, especially on a pay-per-view. And when he was given the chance, he has more than delivered. He had those great series of matches in a week with Dolph Ziggler, where I thought that really had hopefully turned the corner for this guy, but it just seems, he's 2 weeks in a row now we've seen the guy involved with either Ted DiBiase teaming with Mark Henry. He doesn't get an entrance. He's stuck with the Bellas. He's got every anchor attached to him, and he's still somewhat gotten over to this audience. I just wish they'd take the cuffs off and let this guy work in a company that is in dire need right now, I think, of a strong worker in that position.
Well, you didn't enjoy NXT this week where he went out on a date with the Bella Twins?
I don't watch NXT.
Okay.
Man. My most underutilized performer this year was a guy who was on the cusp, had some of the best promos of the year, and then really fell right back into the mid-card level, and that was Jay Lethal. I love this guy. I love that he broke away from Black Machismo, but in a way, I kind of don't like that, because when he broke away, he started wearing red and yellow. And he was just like, well, now he wants to be like a little Hulk Hogan type thing, right? And
then he did the Flair he did all the Flair stuff.
That, I like that. And I thought that they could have built off that and really gone somewhere with it and kept him at the main event level in that feud, but he was totally just dismissed and went back down to doing mid-card.
I thought after the Flair thing, it just kind of made him look, okay, he's a mimic. He just comes out and mimics people. And to me, that was the kiss of death, because then you don't have you're not your own person. You're just mimicking other people.
I just thought they could have done something with him after that. They could have spun that and done it better. And, well, that kind of touches on our next topic here, which is they really dropped the ball on. Fill in the blank. What did we really drop the ball on in 2011? In 2010, Mouth, you said Jack Swagger moving to Raw. I said Gail Kim coming back to the WWE. And John Pollock, you said the Kofi Kingston push. Well, this year, a lot more balls were dropped.
Oh, yes. I have two, actually. And this is one, again, poor guy's been in the promotion forever, and they just, excellent performer, kick-ass wrestler, and they treat him like absolute shit, and that's Samoa Joe. Constantly drop the ball. In fact, they've lost the ball with him. The other one is WWE, and figuring, with Brett coming back, Hart Dynasty.
Yes.
They fucking totally dropped the ball on this one. You had Brett coming back at WrestleMania. I mean, all that stuff, him coming back, finally the promotion. You could have had these guys way more involved. You've split them up already. It was fucking stupid to begin. You can't say enough about that one. To me, that's the main one of the year, Hart Dynasty. I can't think of one that was worse.
That is on my list, Hart Dynasty, because there's just so much pedigree there, and they could have played up the Harts.
It would have been so easy. Exactly.
Easy. And they really didn't. That in combination with the Bret Hart. I do have another one, but John, you go first.
I did give an honorable mention to Team WWE beating Nexus at SummerSlam. I thought that really took an edge off of Nexus, building up to that big match at SummerSlam where they were in a main event position, and then they lost to the WWE team. But my pick was Bret Hart and Vince McMahon at WrestleMania. If you had told anyone 2 years ago that you would get these two together for one more match, I just thought that the introduction was good. It wasn't great. And then they got so off track with the limousine involved. Where Bret's leg was all damaged. And then the match, I mean, Bret has limitations, but this match was just booked so backwards where it almost made Vince McMahon come out as the babyface at the end of it, overcoming the Harts, destroying this guy. I just thought for this program that had 12 years behind it and real history, I thought they really failed to try and get across the reality of this and maybe incorporating wrestling with shadows and getting across the story. And it to me, it did not meet its potential.
I completely agree with you. And actually, last year, a week ago or 2 weeks ago would have been the January 4th return of the Monday Night Wars. Yeah. I was as excited as a little kid going to WrestleMania 6 and being yelled at by Dan Lovranski. That's how excited I was. And my two angles that they really dropped the ball on this year are exactly what happened that night. One, Bret Hart. Totally screwed that up, and the match was just god-awful at WrestleMania, and ultimately, the Hart Dynasty didn't get involved there, so a whole bunch of balls rolling down the street after that. And the second one was Hogan and Bischoff going in and doing the overhaul of TNA. It's terrible. There's nothing good that has come out of this, and they had the potential to grab old fans or do something new, and they've just gone back to WCW all over again, and once again are floundering. So all of my excitement of last year has been flushed away as of the same time this year, and those are the two big things that I thought had been dropped. Worst gimmick is our next category. Worst gimmick last year, Mouth, was the Raw GM.
Yeah.
How about that? And that wasn't even the mystery GM.
Right,
that was just people coming on every week. Yeah. My worst gimmick was the Abraham Washington show, which is gone.
Terrible.
John, your worst gimmick was the Governor, which was Daphne playing the Sarah Palin character.
Yes.
So this year, a whole bunch of fun worst gimmicks fell into our laps once again, Mouth.
There was lots of them. I suppose you could give the honorable mention nod to the anonymous GM, but I went with the Orlando Jordan bisexual character. I'm just so sick of that Vince Russo's style of writing, and it doesn't help to put the guy over at all. It doesn't really interest fans. It offends a lot of people.
Remember that first night when he came out and he squirted the white shit all over his chest? Just lowest common denominator book.
Hated that one.
That's my pick as well for all of those reasons. And dragging Eric Young down with him as well.
Taking somebody else down too,
John?
I went with the anonymous general manager on Raw. I'm so tired of it that I don't even care about a payoff. And if you do care about a payoff, if you've actually paid attention to some of the messages from week to week, it's like it's contradicted itself so much. Whether it's a babyface or a heel, it's not going to make sense.
No.
I don't think anyone cares about the payoff at this point, and I'm just so tired of it. I thought this was going to be a 2-month gimmick at most, and I think this has been. It felt like 5 years that we've been dealing with this computer.
Our worst match of the year is the next category. Last year, we had a clean sweep for this, and it was the Jenna Maraska versus Charmel match at TNA Victory Road. I don't think we'll have a clean sweep this year, but who knows?
We'll see. I have a couple of picks here. Honorable mention goes to another fine contest from the ladies. Caitlyn versus Maxine on NXT. I don't know if you guys remember that match or not. absolutely horrible. Nothing in it. Even the announcers were just making fun of it the whole time. But honestly, the winner, you guys already talked about it and gave all the reasons that I was going to say. Bret Hart versus Vince McMahon.
It's mine as well.
It was just terrible in the ring. They couldn't really do anything, and like John said, it was booked all ass backwards, and it could have been so much more, and it was just like so much less.
And for the people that call in and listen, we're fully aware Bret Hart had a stroke. He can't really take a lot of punishment.
Right.
But the way they booked it with the numbers, where the Hart family came out originally with Vince, and then they turned on Vince before the match. It was just so backwards booking. That should have been the big payoff at the end, was that the family was helping Bret. Anyway, my worst match of the year, though, was Maxine and Caitlyn that Mouth mentioned from NXT. It was just a dreadful, dreadful match.
Yeah, I watched it again this weekend. It was freaking
Why would
bad.
you do that, Mouth?
I just wanted to make sure. It was really fucking bad.
I had Bret and Vince as mine, as I mentioned. Now, worst feud of the year.
I see a sweep here.
You see where I see a sweep here.
I see a sweep here.
Worst feud of the year. Last year, Mouth, you picked DX versus Hornswoggle. I picked Chavo Guerrero versus Hornswoggle. John, you picked Randy Orton versus Shane McMahon last year as your worst feud. Well, worst feud this year. Could it be that SmackDown feud there, Mouth?
I'm totally guessing a sweep here. Kane versus Edge.
Yeah,
just friggin' bad angles, mediocre matches, absolute bullshit, killing someone's father.
Yes.
Like, it's
backwards booking.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, exactly. It was exactly opposite way around. You know, where Kane was the baby face and Edge was the heel. Yeah, it was just.
Not to mention, this was your world title program.
Yep.
Yes.
And to me, if you were trying to keep Kane strong for an Undertaker return, that to me was just killed off here, with Kane almost becoming a babyface who just wanted his father back, and Edge murdered him. Stupid.
Yeah.
Stupid.
It was really bad. Yeah,
Became
really bad.
Roadrunner and Coyote by the end of it.
It was, man. Absolutely. Just ridiculous.
We go from worst feud of the year to worst angle of the year. And last year, worst angle of the year, DX and Hornswoggle got both myself and Dan. And John Pollock, you picked Shawn Michaels returns as a chef. Remember when they brought Shawn Michaels back?
Yes.
They found him in Texas.
They should have done that this past Monday.
That's
right.
Working as the chef.
So, worst angle of the year this year, gentlemen. Mouth?
I went with EV2 in TNA. I hated it. You guys know when they came along, I thought, here's a group that's trying to make themselves known, create something unique, and you go back to something that was dead and buried 10 years plus, tried to revitalize it, and it just didn't work. And just to see all those poor guys back there again, and Sandman and Raven, and it was really freaking sad, and it did nothing to help TNA's business at all.
It was absolutely horrible. That is also my worst angle of the year. I'll agree with you. It's just everything about it was bad, from the concept to the execution.
Yep.
And I know we say that a lot about TNA, but to the pay-per-view, which, believe me, that's coming up as well, folks.
Yes, it is.
John, your worst angle of the year?
Mine was also a group in TNA, but I went with the formation of Immortal at Bound for Glory and the big 10-10-10, and they are coming. I thought this was just... There were a lot of logic holes that didn't make any sense, including, Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff supposedly having this master plan to bring Jeff Jarrett into the group, the same guy who they made clean turds out of toilets as a janitor. It was just very silly, and you turned your biggest babyface in Jeff Hardy. He's meant absolutely nothing as a heel, in my opinion. And for Eric Bischoff, who's gone out and said, well, we haven't reached the potential because of Hulk Hogan's injuries. If this entire angle was built around Hulk Hogan, who can't work,
we're in
what
trouble.
was the point of this entire angle if Hulk Hogan was the key to everything? I don't understand that at all. I think that's just a blanket excuse for poor creative and no long-term thinking with this group.
And they're doing the exact same thing right now. Because on the Impact this week, it's like they are coming. And
it looks like
it worked so good the first time, they're going to do it again.
And we have heard it's the main event Mafia.
I don't even want to get into that.
Scott Steiner on his way back, folks.
Man, that's going to be brutal.
At least TNA's consistent. They're
They
consistent.
are.
Bad.
This is our TNA Best of show. It's our TNA Spotlight show tonight. It's called Our Worst of 2010. You're listening to The Law, live audio wrestling. John Pollock, Dan Lovranski, and myself, Jason Agnew here, running down our worst of of picks. Now, we just did worst angle of the year. Worst pay-per-view is our next shot. And this, to me...
I have a feeling, Jay, you and I have the same one here.
This goes hand in hand with the worst angle of the year.
Yeah.
TNA Hardcore Justice, The Last Stand is my pick, and I guess yours as well, right, Mouth?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Like I said, really sad to see those guys trying to do a style that was nasty and damaging enough first time around, and here we've got 15 years added later. It's just not working. Really, really bad show. Didn't like any of it. Terrible.
Yeah, well, by the way, we did separate this one this year. Oh, I forgot to say what our worst of last year's were. Sorry, I got carried away, guys. Last year's worst ofs, Mouth, you had TNA Destination X. I had WWE Breaking Point. John, you had TNA Victory Road. So this year, both Mouth and I choose TNA Hardcore Justice, The Last Stand. We separated it this year as well. We will be doing a worst MMA pay-per-view a little bit later on in the program. Or we can do it next, actually. John, what's your worst wrestling pay-per-view, though?
I agreed with you guys and went with Hardcore Justice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great that these guys got a payday, but to me, it was just such a poor choice by TNA, because to me it was like we are going backwards because we don't have confidence in our own product. And I think even members who were part of ECW weren't happy with this. I know Taz hated this idea that they were just going back and trying to resuscitate the past instead of focusing on yourself and making yourself a viable option.
That was the thing. You're supposed to create something new, not rehack
I just thought
the
it sent a
past.
terrible message for your promotion.
Now, let's go from there to, let's delve into the world of mixed martial arts, which, by the way, I don't think has been mentioned once on this show yet. And all of these categories kind of had MMA open to it as well. But the worst MMA pay-per-view of the year, guys. Mouth, what's your choice?
You know what? I didn't know this was on the list.
No?
I do not have a pick for worst MMA
Oh, okay.
pay-per-view. Sorry.
John, do you have one? I have one.
Yeah, I went with UFC 112 from Abu Dhabi. It was headlined by Anderson Silva and Damian Maia, which, as bad a fight as that was, that's the one everyone's going to remember. There was also a really terrible fight with Matt Hughes and Renzo Gracie.
Oh, that was awful.
It was really sad to see.
that was a bad show.
Renzo Gracie at one point gets knocked down, and Matt Hughes gave his hand to pick him up. And to me, it was just like, you don't want to see guys who are, legitimate contributors to the formation of mixed martial arts continuing to fight way past their due date. And it was a bad show and a very bad start to their move into Abu Dhabi.
Now, you went to Abu Dhabi. I went to Australia for mine. It was a show that you and I watched together. It was Impact FC.
Oh, yeah.
And this is where it was Ken Shamrock versus Pedro Hizzo. They took 2 nights and they put them together on one card when they cut it into pay-per-view. And this was the one with the ring announcer, something white, and he screwed up someone's name at the beginning of the show. It was just a train wreck.
Him and Don Fry were the best parts of that show.
Yeah, Don Fry was interesting. But it just really does show, I mean, how great UFC's production values are. Not necessarily some of their packages are getting a little bit stale in regards to seeing the gladiators every time, but just how good they are doing live events.
Yeah.
And this just shows you how poor the lighting was, the attendance was bad.
Guys didn't get paid.
Yeah, it was just overall just bad. Impact FC was my choice there. So let's go back up now to something that's open to both wrestling and mixed martial arts, and that is the worst promotion of the year. Worst promotion last year
might have a sweep here.
Was a clean sweep for Total Nonstop Action Wrestling. This year, might we have the same, Dan Lovranski?
The more things change, the more they stay the same.
2 clean sweeps in a row.
Yeah, 2 years
Has that ever been done?
Yeah, that's got to be some sort of record there.
Congratulations, TNA. You're the best at being the worst.
I think we don't need to say why. We've said why countlessly already.
This year it is for different reasons, though. This year is Hogan and Bischoff had the chance to resurrect this thing and do something different, and they just didn't. No. Last year they were just all fucked up with Russo.
If you were to tell me that a company that has Hulk Hogan, Jeff Hardy, Ric Flair, Rob Van Dam, Mr. Anderson, Kurt Angle, the list goes on and on and on. They did numbers this year that Ring of Honor did higher pay-per-view numbers for back in 2008.
Wow.
With no TV.
Wow.
Like, they were doing 8,000 buys for some shows this year, which is just absolutely embarrassing when you have 1.5 million people watching that show every week, and you're only convincing 8,000 of them to spend money on your product. That's a failure. A failure.
Consider the outlet that they are on, Spike TV, well known in the U.S., also UFC's primary outlet, and the pay-per-view numbers that UFC can turn around versus what TNA turns around with stars like Hogan and Angle on there. Just a colossal, beyond belief failure. This promotion is.
And Impact always outdraws those countdown shows. So that tells you one thing about what is being processed here when 900,000 people will watch a countdown show, and you're getting a relative close number to that buying the pay-per-views. Like, it's astounding.
There's just no reason for this. And you know what, guys? Yeah, this is our worst of show, and I know we crap on TNA a lot, but the fact of the matter is we crap on it because we actually want it to do well.
Absolutely. We say this every year, right? We said the same thing last year. We crap on it because it's crappy, but yeah, exactly. We want competition for the WWE. We want somewhere where guys can go and have, good matches and stuff. And it's just like, it's not happening.
No one was more excited than me on January 4th, 2010, when we all sat around and watched these two go head-to-head. I really thought wrestling was going to come back into its own, and a year later, it's same old. Same old.
Yeah. And who told you that by the end of the month it would suck, Jay?
I didn't doubt you. I was just very excited about what was happening. Let me have... Hey, excitement is few and far between.
You had your 1 week.
Mark looked into the crystal bong.
Yeah, that's it, man. The haze was there. I could see.
Let's go to worst book of the year that is MMA and wrestling oriented, and I do have a pick.
Awesome.
I do have a pick, but I will let you guys go first.
I picked the Goldust one. I can't even remember
Crossroads.
What the actual... Okay, just because here's a guy who's a veteran performer, and I know it was under the WWE banner, so that always hurts a little bit, but here's a guy that had a lengthy career, and they just blew it all off. It was all focused on his problems with drugs and getting back and getting around to where he needed to be, which is fine, and it was a positive story, which is great. But, man, they blew over his WCW career in like 2 pages or something like that, and I just thought it was a really, really fluff kind of book, and not what I want to read when it comes to a wrestling bio.
For those curious and don't want to read the book, yes, he did some coke before some of his TNA matches.
Ooh.
I went with, this was not only the worst book of the year, I'll say it's the worst book of the decade that I've read relating to wrestling, and that was WCW Killed Vince Russo by Vince Russo.
I couldn't even finish it.
Oh, it was a painful, painful chore to get through this book. This guy, he has worked within the wrestling industry since 1994, and I've never seen someone with so much experience and no clue, like absolutely no clue. And I know there are certain aspects of Vince Russo that somewhat get overlooked that he can contribute to, but overall, this guy just has zero clue about how this business is run. He's so hell-bent on reinventing the wheel and not being old-school wrestling that drew money back in the day. And this is I can't believe this guy, he has been there since September of 2006, and this is the state TNA is in, and they still rally behind this guy as their leader and creative.
Now, last year in this category, you guys both actually picked Hulk Hogan, My Life Outside the Ring. I did not pick one last year. I really don't read many of the books, but let me give you my mindset here. I did pick one this year. It wasn't one I had to read.
Okay.
It was the book that Dixie Carter gave to Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan. That is by far the worst book of this year. All right, worst TV show is category here for us. Last year, guys, John, you picked TNA Impact. Mouth, you picked TNA Impact. I picked WWE Superstars because I just didn't see a purpose for it.
Yeah.
We might have some changes on this one.
We do.
See?
We do.
Mouth?
I'm going to take a break, and I'm going to go with NXT.
Right.
Because it just, especially the season with
Women's.
the women.
That's what I'm picking as well.
Absolutely fucking horrible. I cannot fathom it. I'm not a huge businessman, but I can't fathom any business that wants to create new talent and puts them on a show and fucking ridicules them for the whole time, and then has the announcers ridicule them for the whole time, and it's just painfully annoying. Even this week's show, once again, painfully annoying. I hope Tough Enough is a hell of a lot better and maybe creates an actual star out of it. NXT, it's got to go. It's got to go.
John.
I did go with TNA Impact.
Okay, well, there you go.
I understand NXT. It's absolutely a terrible concept and their philosophy behind it, but TNA Impact, that is their flagship show designed to direct viewers to purchase pay-per-views or go to live events. Both of those pillars of profitability are complete failures for the company, and Impact is just booked so poorly that by the end of the 2 hours, you have no desire to purchase a pay-per-view. And that, to me, is a show that does not accomplish its goal.
Worst DVD of 2010, our selections were, sorry, it would have been 2009. Our selections were, Mouth, you picked Macho Madness, the Randy Savage story, because Savage was not in it.
And it was hosted by Matt Stryker and Maria.
Maria.
There you go. I picked the Best of SmackDown 10th anniversary because, in my opinion, that would be blank discs. And John, you picked Batista, I Stand Alone last year. This year, Mouth, what are you headed to?
I picked the Bobby Heenan one that just came out at the end of the year.
Does that qualify? It's in last year?
Came out December.
Oh, did it? I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah, again, as an older fan, a guy that really kind of grew up on the 80s stuff, Bobby Heenan was such an amazing manager, voice, character, personality, and this documentary did not even come close to paying proper tribute. And I understand Heenan has major health issues at the problem, and they probably couldn't maybe have actually done new interviews with him, but it was still really, really poorly done, and very short. It wasn't even an hour long, if I'm mistaken. And I just thought it was not a good tribute. And there's no beef between McMahon and Heenan like there is with Savage, right? Heenan was always very well respected, so I don't understand. I thought it was really poorly done.
Worst DVD of 2010, John?
I only got to see this in the last couple of weeks, but I went with the WWE Studios production of Knucklehead, starring The Big Show.
You watched it. Oh, man.
Me and Way are reviewing it later tonight on Review-A-Wai to go in with the worst of show.
Yes.
So I will expand on my thoughts on Review-A-Wai tonight.
Now, I haven't seen this, but I was just genuinely offended by the cover. It's the top 50 superstars of all time.
Oh, yeah.
And on the cover, no Hulk Hogan and no Ric Flair.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, they were in top 10, Jay.
Oh, man. It's
that I wouldn't even give that set the time of day because it's such a friggin' joke.
That was the most transparent marketing tool for a company. Like I understand.
As soon as you saw the list, it was a friggin' joke. Like, the list was a joke.
Well, if you actually watch any of it, some of the throws, it's like the hosts are even making fun of the list.
Oh, really? Wow,
you're kidding. It is.
Oh,
and they blame it. They say that the WWE superstars were the ones that voted on this list.
Right.
This bullshit voting list that never occurred.
Let's flip over to the world of mixed martial arts now. Worst MMA fighter last year, Mouth and John, you guys. No, Mouth and I both picked Kimbo Slice. John, you picked Houston Alexander. This year, Mouth, what is your choice for worst MMA fighter?
He gets to win again this year. I picked Kimbo
Oh,
Slice.
really?
Yeah, well, he fought like fuck. He fought once this year. He lost. He's just, to me, the epitome of a guy that gets a little bit of a hype behind him, and then it just fails abysmally. As you could tell was going to happen right out of the gate anyways. At least it hasn't been like Tank Abbott, where he still manages to get fights every once in a while.
Well, he could fight if he wanted to.
I suppose. I don't know. That would Kimbo.
He's training to be a
pick.
boxer now. Training to be a boxer.
Wonderful.
All right, John, worst MMA fighter.
I'm picking a guy who should remain a boxer, and that's James Toney.
Oh, yeah.
I thought this was so unneeded by the UFC to bring this guy in. There was no upside. You could tell he didn't really train for this fight at all. It was an embarrassing fight, and I thought this made the UFC look silly when they didn't need to. This is something I can expect from a Strike Force or someone who needs to get this attention. The UFC doesn't need this attention at all. I don't think the average casual viewer is even aware of James Toney and what he's done in boxing. So he was just horrible, and now he's stating that he wants to come back and fight, and the UFC has no time for this guy now.
Which is good, yeah. My worst MMA fighter, I thought about James Toney, but he was only in there once. So I picked a guy who lost 3 times in 2010. Once to Junior Dos Santos, one to Ben Rothwell, and another time to John Madsen, and that's Gilbert Ivel, losing 3 times and subsequently being released. So he's my worst MMA fighter. Worst MMA match last year. Mouth, you picked Slice versus Alexander at the Ultimate Fighter 10 finale. I picked Anderson Silva versus Thales Leites at UFC 97. John, you picked that same thing. So what's your pick this year, Mouth?
John already actually touched on it when he mentioned his worst pay-per-view or MMA pay-per-view of the year, UFC 112, Anderson Silva and Damian Maia.
Gotcha.
I watched it again this weekend. Just terrible. Anderson Silva's performance, he's in there and he's fighting and he's just showboating and dancing around and fooling around and not doing anything. And then in the interview afterwards, he apologizes for his behavior and says, "Oh, I don't know what came over me." I just thought, you're full of shit.
John, worst MMA fight?
Like I just mentioned, Randy Couture and James Toney from UFC 118. Just really embarrassing to me. And I think this whole thing, they put it together as well. It's the first ever major MMA versus boxer fight, but it's done under MMA rules. So to me, that established nothing. I thought it hurt Randy just being involved in this circus. And I'm just glad it's not going to be his final fight against James Toney.
Mine was Frank Mir versus Mirko Krokop. A lot of hype behind this fight and just awful.
Yeah, I watched that one again this
in the
weekend
ring.
too. Yeah, it was bad.
Woo,
yeah,
terrible.
It was bad.
All right, so finally we have our final category here is the WTF moment of the year. That is, of course, the what the fuck moment of the year. What made you say what the fuck? Last year, Mouth, you said what the fuck at TNA working with Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff.
See?
It might be that again this year, friends. I said last year what the fuck with the abrupt end of Donald Trump's angle and how Vince just shit on the entire wrestling fan group. And John, you said what the fuck at Cute Kip replacing Kevin Nash in the main event of TNA Genesis. What are we saying WTF at this year, Dan Lovranski?
This was one I remember when it happened. You and I were really, 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 really pissed off about this one. Taking the mask off Punk on TV.
Yeah.
I just thought that, like, honestly, I did. I sat there and went, what the fuck? It's like, you could have built that up so good. You could have done a big program with Ray and all that stuff, and the Big Show just pulls it off in a moment on the TV. I just thought that was a total what the fuck.
All right, John.
I went with the infamous chair shot from Homicide to Rob Terry on Impact back in April. I thought this was just so tasteless at a time when everyone was learning all this stuff about concussions. This happened just about a week after Chris Canyon's death, where he suffered from depression. He had multiple concussions during his career, and I thought it was just so arrogant of TNA. It's one thing to look back at tapes from 10 years ago when guys didn't know any better, but now the information's out, and I think it's just so irresponsible now to be seeing unprotected chair shots. And this was just TNA giving a giant finger to the people that analyze this industry, and I couldn't believe that these guys were put in this position where they had to do this angle. I hated this.
Okay, I have two what the fuck moments. Let me explain this. One is, oh, what the fuck? And one is, what the fuck? Okay, so let me give you the angry one first. And it's a constant. It's happened several times. It happened with Machida and Rampage. It happened with Shirk and Dunham. And it happened with Nam Fan and Leonard Garcia. And that is UFC judging. This year, it seemed to really be prominent that something's got to go on with this judging. They got to make some changes because it's just not right, and it's not fair to the sport, and it's not fair to the way the sport is evolving. So that was number one, constantly with the angry, oh, what the fuck. The other one of me sitting on my computer and clicking on this and going, what the fuck was Hulk Hogan taking a shit on Twitter and posting a video? This is a guy. I just never seen someone's stock drop like this. All he now wants to be is on TMZ and be on reality TV when this is someone that guys my age, early 30s, grew up as the iconic hero of Hulk Hogan. And now he's taking his shit on Twitter.
But would that have been your moment had he been shitting on the toilet seat you bought him?
No, it wouldn't have. There would have been, but I would have been like, oh, what the fuck?
That would have been a different what the fuck.
Yes, I bought him a toilet seat, and then he didn't show up last year when I was supposed to interview him. So that is our worst of 2010 list, friends. We've basically taken it to the top of the hour here, almost at the midnight point, Eastern Standard Time.
Do we have time for a call? Or
do we want to do one lucky call, James? We're going to do one lucky call. Who are you picking, Big Game?
We will go to Eagle Lake, Texas, where Brian is on the line.
Well, what number?
3.
Line 3. Brian, it's been a while, but I know you're going to scream at the piss ants this year, so go right ahead. Your worst of stuff.
Well, the worst stuff is, let me see.
Oh, no, this is Brian from Eagle Lake. Oh, Maurice.
Yes, I'm Maurice. I was going to say the only reason why I watched NXT because of her, and I was asking a question. This is do you know Teddy DiBiase and Maurice, they're together storyline wise, but I heard something on DivaDirt.com, their prediction of 2011, and they said that Maurice might turn face, and I was one and the only reason that can happen is maybe her and Ted DiBiase split, because that's not going nowhere. I don't know why they keep on losing all the time, and I'm thinking maybe the reason why they're losing all the time because they're going to split up.
Well, maybe, Brian, but you just remember Maurice's heart will always be with you in Eagle Lake.
Yeah.
I got confused. I thought it was John of Arc. I got confused there.
He told me off the air that Maurice tweeted him 6 times this year.
Really? Ooh, wow.
That's another guy that dropped the ball on Hughes, is Ted DiBiase.
I agree. Giving him his dad's gimmick.
I think Ted dropped his own ball.
Did he? Well, he could be. All right. Anyways, that's it. We've got lots of time, though, to take calls from you as the program progresses. We're going to take a break here, and we'll be back with Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer newsletter. We'll have title bout trivia and more of your worst of 2010. We've got it. I feel so much better already.
You're cleansed, mouth?
I feel so much better.
As long as you don't pull a Hogan on us.
You're not
in the studio.
You're not going to see any of the actual cleansing.
All right.
Give us a shout. 1-888-9-HARDCORE, 1-888-942-7326. More of the law coming up right after this, right here on the...
It's time for the Wrestling Observer Extra.
Wrestling Observer Extra.
With Dave Meltzer.
By popular demand. Right here on the law.
Live audio wrestling.
All right, welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed live audio wrestling here on the Score, Sirius 98. Coming up, we're going to be talking shortly with Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Also, Jay's going to be doing a special Worst of 2010 title bout trivia tonight.
It's pretty awesome, the prize package, and when I say awesome, I mean you might not want it.
You still not going to tell him, eh? You're going to wait till we get right down to it?
It's the worst of the worst.
Okay.
It is.
All right.
Everything we're giving out, I think, made our list. Oh, maybe not for one thing, but one made... Anyway,
yeah,
we'll explain.
It is, yeah. Some of it is on there, definitely, for sure. And, of course, we're going to take some more of your phone calls. 1-888-9-HARDCORE. That's 1-888-942-7326, talking about the worst of 2010. And joining us now, as he does every Sunday night, it's Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Dave, how are you doing tonight?
You want me to talk about TNA, huh?
Well, it's pretty well a big chunk of our list, unfortunately, tonight, Dave, are focusing around TNA. I mean, I don't even know what to say. It's a mess. I mean, my worst promotion, worst pay-per-view, worst angle came from this promotion, worst tag team, it's worst announcer. It's all over the place. It's really bad with TNA. I don't even know what to say.
Well, I think that TNA had some improvements over last year. The last year's booking was way worse than this year, but they made the, in hindsight, the worst business move going head to head with Raw. At the time, I didn't know that. At the time, I actually kind of thought it was a good idea to go to Monday, but I didn't think they should have gone 9 to 11. But that ended up hurting them a lot.
It was terrible. Yeah, absolutely terrible. And I just think, the whole... And now, let's to discuss this, let's just continue on with what we're hearing from TNA now. And the one thing that I'm really worried about is, for one thing, we had the return of the Hardy Boys as a tag team this week, and the rating for the TV show got progressively worse as it led into that match.
Yeah, that's a pattern that there's definitely a problem there when you open with your highest quarter. Because if you watch WWE, generally speaking, the highest quarter is the final quarter. They go up and down during the show. Right. TNA goes more down during the show, so it's a sign they can't keep their audience. I mean, there's even now, yeah, there's no question that's an issue they have to address, and I think it's they throw so much out there. I think that's been the problem.
That's what it's too much for people to take, and they just slowly start to drop off.
Yeah, I mean, there's for whatever reason, when you watch TNA, nothing seems important because they throw so much out there, and it's a problem that they've had for years and years. And I don't know why. Again, like they weren't always this bad, and I don't know why they make what seems to be obvious mistakes and never correct them. I think they don't realize that they're mistakes. That's probably the most frustrating part of TNA because they have a lot of good wrestlers.
Yeah.
And I mean, everyone that goes to their live shows says that the live shows are great. I mean, and the problem is that the TV they make there's a problem with the TV, and they pretend there's no problem, which only makes it worse.
And then just then really simple like just really bad decisions, which to us watching from the outside seems so obvious, like the Matt Hardy thing last weekend for the pay-per-view. I mean, okay, it might have not drawn a huge amount of buys, but geez, you should have said something about Matt Hardy being on the show before the actual pay-per-view. And to me, that seems like obvious.
He also should have at least been a babyface for like the first month or so to take advantage of the fact that people wanted to cheer him. If he needed to turn at some point, he could turn. I don't have a problem with Matt Hardy as a heel, but I do think that the biggest pop you're going to get from Matt Hardy is the babyface pop for his arrival, and they went and like ruined that on the first day. So it's like, I mean, I understand with Jeff as a heel and everything, but you don't have to do it right away, and then. The first match with the Hardy Boys back in so long as a team, and the rating for that quarter by the time they got to that match was nothing special.
Yeah, no, it's terrible. And now, Dave, this other thing with we had the they're coming this year, and now we're going to get it again. And is this true that they're thinking of doing the main event Mafia against Immortal? Is that the plan?
That's the plan, but they got to get all their ducks in a row. They got to sign Sting. I mean, in theory, they got to sign Nash, who swears he's not coming.
Yeah.
And then that means, okay, Steiner we know is back because he was at TV on Wednesday, and then the other guy is Booker. And I mean, I like Booker and everything, but Booker and TNA was not a good marriage the first time, and bringing him back. I mean, I just remember when he was gone, everybody was happy he was gone, and I think he was happy to be gone.
Yeah.
So why do you need to go back to something that didn't work?
Well, that's it. I just don't understand. And plus, if you think about that, you've got Flair, Hogan, Bischoff on Jarrett on the other side, and then you're going to have if you have Sting, Nash, Booker, Steiner on this side, like this, it's going to be turned to even more of the friggin' old folks' home than it is now. Like this is just ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, even if they get short-term results, and they may, from this thing. I mean, the Main Event Mafia, from a rating standpoint, did better than most things that TNA did. But at the end of the day, I mean, what are you building? I mean, if you're trying to build a company, I mean, I'm thinking it's like if you're trying to build a company, why are you hot-shotting with these guys? I've never in my life, ever, and I've been thinking about this. I can't come up with one wrestling company that turned their fortunes around with everyone being 50 years old.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that there isn't room for one or two of those guys. There is. I like the idea of having one or two of those guys. But the guys who are going to turn you around are guys in their 20s and maybe early 30s, but most likely in their 20s.
Yeah.
And they won't give those guys the chance because they weren't stars 10 years ago. Well, guess what? Inherently, if you got a guy in his first run who's going to do really well, he probably wasn't a star 11 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just and the other thing that this past year too, that again going back to something that really has nothing to do with about building your company, and that was the whole the EV2 thing with that last hurrah for ECW, which I suppose is kind of nice and sentimental, but that was an abysmal failure, and it diverted them for at least a month or 2 months away from their own product when they should be working on that and just fooling around with that.
Well, it's the same exact thing. They think of ratings this week. That's all, and it's like as long as you've got that mentality, ratings this week, you're going to always hot shot, and you're never going to grow long term. I mean, like the EV2 thing, it's like I think they got like 2 weeks of ratings out of that one or so. It was a week or two where the ratings were up, and they got one pay-per-view out of it that did better than average. But at the same time, what did you do to build during that period? Nothing. You actually put everything on the back burner.
Well, that's it. And plus, to me, that pay-per-view, I thought that pay-per-view was horrible. So to me, even if you maybe got the curiosity buys, I don't think any of those people would have stayed because that pay-per-view was shit.
Yeah, I hated the pay-per-view too. I know some people liked it. I honestly thought that was
maybe sad.
one of the worst pay-per-views of the year.
It was
really sad watching it. Because it was for a lot of reasons. I think it was a nostalgia that wasn't good nostalgia to me.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't. It was sad because it was all these guys that were broken down and battered after, 20 years of abuse. It was not fun to watch at all.
Yeah.
Now, just on the other side of it, Dave, we're talking about how main event Mafia, Immortals, and all this. I heard this week that El Generico got a tryout. Is someone like him I don't even know how someone like him is going to fit into TNA. Like he's just going to be cannon fodder.
Yeah, most likely. Well, most likely the idea I'm sure is for him and T.J. Perkins, if they bring them in, is they put them in the X division, and we're back in the mode right now where it's another of the let's revitalize the X division. But as long as the X division is categorized as your first match on a pay-per-view or second match on a pay-per-view, it's like you can revitalize it and you can have good matches, but you're still going to have a bunch of guys in the same spots, that they always were. Like, Sabin and Shelley get over, with a team, then they, get put in this thing, and they're, are they going to main event with the X division? Well, if they do, then maybe this is a positive, but, history kind of doesn't tell you that they're going to end up main eventing those guys.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I definitely think, well, we say this every week, but yeah, TNA really. Let's say this, Dave. If there's one thing you could do with TNA that you think would be the best thing to help improve the promotion, what would it be?
Patience, and an overhaul. I guess it. God, I hate to say it, but I think of all the people that I've spoken with about TNA, the guy who probably had it as close to, whether he could pull it off or not, I don't know. But who seemed to, kind of at least understand what the situation was with Heyman.
Yeah.
Heyman's thing was, one older guy, it's cool. If Hogan's going to be there, Flair's going to be there, maybe even both. But then you don't need Sting, and then you don't need Nash, and you don't need Booker T and Scott Steiner and all that. But really focus on some of these guys and figure out, who you can make into money players and start building them for a year and go with the idea, look, you know what, we're probably going to be a 1.1 for a while. And that's the thing that kills me about TNA is they're afraid of pushing these young guys because the ratings are going to go down, and the ratings are going to be where they're going to be either way. They're not going to go up, or they're not going to go up consistently or down consistently. They've been at 1.05, 1.06 for years now, and they will be if you put AJ Styles on top, and they will be if you put Sabin on top, and maybe if you give these guys a year. Somebody's going to be able to get their promo act together, which is the key, and maybe be have fresh main event matches that are something new. And right now they're not willing to sacrifice that time to get the new guy ready, and because of that, they're pretty much doomed to be what WCW was at the end, which is a lot of guys who used to be stars and nobody knew as stars, and then you just can't be a fresh product, and you can't be a hot product that way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, the one thing I want to mention with Ring of Honor figures, just as I get HDNet, the show has been canceled now. It was really, I loved watching that show. I thought it was really, really great as an old school fan. What do you think Ring of Honor should do? Should they concentrate, just keep it to the live shows and pay-per-views on the internet and DVDs, or should they try to get some television somewhere else? Does it matter?
You got to try to get TV. There were flaws in the Ring of Honor TV. I think more production than anything else. I thought the booking was very good, and the wrestling was good too. But no matter what they do without television, they're pretty much going to be at the level they're at. With television, perhaps they can grow. There's no guarantees. The problem that they had was the TV was on a station that not a lot of people got.
Yeah.
So it didn't really help them that much. But I think the positive, if you really want to look at it, there is a positive, and the positive is that I think it's a lot easier for a promotion to get TV having had TV than getting TV having never had TV.
Right.
So, but the negative is that there's not a lot of stations now that want professional wrestling, so getting new TV is not going to be easy no matter what.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. What options would Ring of Honor really have? I don't think there's too many out there.
No, I don't either. I don't know who it would be. It's not like there's all these companies clamoring for TNA, and when their contract with Spike is up, there's a lot of companies clamoring for UFC.
Right.
And there's a lot of companies, But again, the thing is, it's not just TV. Because Ring of Honor had TV. It's got to be TV on a station that a lot of people can get,
right,
and that a lot of people watch. And now you're really limited, and a lot of those stations, have not shown much of an interest in wrestling.
Yeah. Well, and they're not, and especially not of a company. I mean, that would be considered, third tier at best, right? I'm sure anyone
third tier, no big stars.
Right.
Yes, they. What they proved is they can get a TV show done on deadline, and it can be a decent show and all that. But they have not. And we haven't proved one way or the other can they draw ratings. I mean, maybe they could do okay, but we don't know that. And as long as we don't know that, that's it makes it hard. If they had even TNA has a track record of at least being decent ratings for prime time for a lot of it's ahead of what a lot of stations would do.
Right. Let's switch over to the WWE just shortly here, Dave. We heard Shawn Michaels announced for the Hall of Fame this year. I guess sounds like we're going to have a reunion of the Clique at the Hall of Fame this year.
Yeah, sounds that way. Shawn is one of those guys where, when it comes to the Hall of Fame, there are guys that you can debate, and then there are guys where you just go, if anyone's going to argue this one, man.
Yeah, it's pretty silly.
You can't argue.
Yeah.
Shawn's such a clear Hall of Famer, it's not even funny.
Yeah. Have you heard anything about other names floating around, Dave?
Well, all the Atlanta names you keep hearing over and over
right.
again. Like Arn Anderson, Ron Simmons, and Freebirds, and Lex Luger. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of them. Or that'll probably be the focus. I don't know who else. Obviously, if Sting does not sign, they'll make a play for Sting.
Right.
But Booker T perhaps if he doesn't sign with TNA, they'll make a play. But then there'll probably be some guys that aren't Atlanta affiliated that they just decide to put in this year.
Right.
But Shawn gives him a strong main event guy anyway.
Right. Well, I'm surprised that he's the one they announced first, just because I think any pick after this is probably going to be, downhill. He's really the top guy at the moment, I think, to put in there.
Yeah, I agree. But I think the thing is they put tickets on sale this week for the thing, and they want that name out there.
Right. That makes sense. And also the situation with Taker for Mania. Have you heard any new updates on that? Just his health, and have they heard? I'm hearing like Wade Barrett, perhaps, or
Wade Barrett's the leading candidate. That's for sure.
Right.
And if you're going to bet, you bet that he's going to do the show. Even if he's not ready, he'll figure out a way to do the show. But it's he had major surgery on the shoulder, and the shoulder was a mess. It was really damaged badly, and I don't know that he will. He may be able to have a great match at Mania, but it's not like he's going to be able to go out there and have great matches night after night. This may be. I don't want to say the end for him because I think he'll probably last a couple of years. But,
right.
But again, we even saw this year. He was out for a long time. Came back from Mania, then he was out again.
Right.
Then he came back, and he was only back for like a month or so, and then he was gone again. So this guy, he's done a lot, and his body's breaking. He's got a lot of, he worked through a lot of injuries for a lot of years. That was the thing that, he had a lot of guts and everything, and people always used to mention that to me. He's hurt a lot worse than you think, and it's like, I think I compared him with Hashimoto on the show before. It's like those guys that work when they're hurt.
Mm-hmm.
What ends up happening is their shoulders and their knees and stuff ends up being really bad, unfixable bad.
Yeah. No, it's a tough one for sure for Taker for the next little while. And like you said, this could be, I'm sure, where things are winding down toward the end of his career for sure. We got to wrap up for this week, Dave. What can we expect in the Observer?
Big story on Lesnar doing Ultimate Fighter,
right?
And on Hardy's and that all fun stuff, and TNA, the new their TV plans and things like that going forward. They're gonna start doing some live tapings. Not live tapings. I take that back. They will be not doing live tapings, but they will be doing TV tapings outside of Orlando.
Oh,
so, which I think is a good move.
Yep. Yeah.
I've been thinking that that's something that they should be do now for 3 or 4 years. So hopefully it works out better than last year's big move. At the beginning of the year, go to Monday.
Exactly. All right, Dave. Thanks for joining us as always, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Okay. Have a great week.
You too. That's Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer, ladies and gentlemen. His website is WrestlingObserver.com. All right, let's get into some more phone calls here and get back to our worst of 2010.
Phones are ringing, as you can hear. John, where should we head to?
We are going to Australia, Jay.
Whoa.
With Justin in Melbourne calling on line 2.
Nice.
All right, Justin, how you doing?
How you doing, man?
Thanks for holding on with us there, and we're talking about the worst of, so feel free to bitch and complain. What's on your mind?
Basically, I did an interview with UFC featherweight Nam Phan from The Ultimate Fighter of last year. And obviously with that comes May judging. So I just want to talk, and yeah.
You want to talk about the judging, so are you cut out there?
Yeah.
Okay, what about it?
If it's hurting the sport, basically.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah, I totally think it does. I mean, UFC had way too many shows this year where there was at least one match where they would have the controversial finish with the judges. To me, I think it's going to scare potential new fans away, because if you see bad judging every week, every show, you're just not going to put any faith in it. It's like what started to happen in boxing at one point. So I think if they don't standardize the system in some way and make some improvements, it's going to totally hurt it.
I'm looking more to the casual fans. I mean, there's people like me who are going to watch every week regardless.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, every week, every show, yada yada, for UFC, Strikeforce, whatever. But I'm talking the casuals. I mean, just bad decisions like the Leonard Garcia and Nam Phan decision, I think is hurting the sport and taking away from the sport a lot.
I
agree with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially for casual fans. Hardcore fans will sit through anything. I mean, hardcore wrestling fans still watch TNA. They'll sit through anything. But absolutely, the casual fan, perhaps they see that, they watch one of the bigger pay-per-views and there's a fight like that where there's such a discrepancy in the judges where like every single person in the entire world except for 3 people thought the fight went that way. Absolutely, it's going to hurt the casual fan thing. It's totally going to hurt them more. Because they'll just see that and go, okay, I can't bother with this. Okay?
All right. Thank you very much for the phone call all the way from Australia. A bit of a delay there. I don't know if he was using Skype or something.
I'm not sure what was going on.
Bit
It's
of a
hard
delay.
to understand there.
John.
Eric is in Albany, New York, and he's on line 3.
Line 3. Hello, Eric.
Hey, yeah, guys, what's going on? Long time, no call.
All right, well, thank you for calling.
You guys are talking about 2010, the problems with 2010. I got a problem with 2011 already with TNA. First of all, the first thing is, I mean, I was watching on a stream online. I don't pay for cable, but I was watching it was no commercials, so I'm not sure if they cut their hours like a half hour early or something like that. I'm not sure what the deal was with that. But the television title with Abyss here. I mean, he defended his title. The title was on the line, but it was a non-title match, and he lost. And there were so many other title matches. I didn't get it at all. It made no sense to me. And what are they doing with Samoa Joe, anyways?
Good question, man. I'd like to know, because for this past year, they've just let him totally waste. I mean, there's a bit of this angle with Pope now, I guess, but I mean, I can't believe how much they wasted him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
It is.
But, yeah, I'd like to hear guys starts and Bubba Army.
Yeah. See you later.
I thought he got canceled or something.
The Bubba Army is on the slim side these days.
Yeah, he's not, though.
No.
John.
Let's keep going. We will go to Pat in Mississauga on line 5.
Line 5. All right there, Pat. Go ahead, shoot.
Good evening, fellow haters.
Hey,
you got it.
This is your night, brother. This shows. These type of shows are made for you.
Oh man, I'm having a blast laughing about the train wrecks you guys have reviewed tonight. Great job. You guys are like Japanese businessmen pissing all over a hooker.
That's it, man.
This installment of the law has had more shit than a German scat video. Listen, down to business. Worst family in wrestling. For the first time in a decade, it is not the Hogans. It's the Hardys.
Yeah.
Between YouTube and the criminal justice system, 2010 was not a good year for the Hardys.
No, and I don't think, judging from the tag match on Impact this week, I don't think it's going to get any better either.
I think you are right. Worst DVD, I'm with you, Heenan.
Such a disappointment.
Dude, if Brain watches this, shitty DVD, what's left of his jaw will drop.
Yeah, it was such a bad for such a guy like him. And again, doesn't have any issues with McMahon. McMahon always really respected him.
Yeah.
Just terrible job.
And Kelly is definitely my pick for worst female wrestling, man. It's bad enough she can't work or speak, but add in the fact that she's a glorified ring rat, and it completely illegitimizes female wrestling.
Yeah, it's bad.
Like, that skank has blown so many wrestlers, she spits somas. And Lacey Von Erich, okay, she definitely, honorable mention, I'm definitely there, but, she may be the smartest Von Erich ever. Giving up wrestling, she may have just extended her life given the Von Erich curse.
That is the way things went.
And good for you, Mouth, calling it like it is. Taz has so much insight and experience, but isn't delivering.
He's terrible.
You can tell that week in, week out, he's just calling it in, pun intended.
Yeah.
And on Impact, he has the conversational skills of an echo.
Yeah. No, it's true. He either just parrots whatever Tenay says or sits there and goes, oh, blah, blah.
Yeah, and since that last jackass mentioned Bubba Army, one of you mentioned a brief Bubba's brief appearance on TNA, like as noteworthy shit. I think as Canadians, we may be biased, because when it comes to Bubba the Contraceptive, Bubba is tailor-made for southern U.S. markets. And Canadians who bathe and brush their teeth and read, we can't relate to a hick like Bubba. But I could see anyone dumb enough to watch TNA would like him. The Bible-loving, sister-fucking demographic, more of a Brian from Eagle Lake crowd.
Oh.
Now, guys, didn't you find
no problem with Brian.
Didn't you find it strange this past week that you bring HBK out for Raw and you didn't say a damn word?
No.
I thought that was good, actually. I thought
really?
Do the least with Sean and not throw all that away, because I think he's going to figure into Mania plans.
Oh, you got to make him a bigger deal, though. He's HBK.
I thought they sold that pretty well. They were building up for that the whole show.
And guys, what about that disturbing cult angle with Punk, man? Was this? Am I the only one that thinking this is disturbing?
Well,
it
was
like Army hazing or something.
You know what? I brought that up before the show. I was chatting with the guys about that. To me, it seemed like something that was pulled out of the Attitude Era, actually.
Yeah.
And I was surprised WWE would go ahead and do it. And, the stuff at the top of the Titantron, I don't think we've seen that since Hawk was up there threatening to jump. Very... not really PG TV that we've been seeing. So I'm wondering if this is where WWE is pushing to with this angle, leading them there now that there is no more kind of Linda McMahon thing happening.
Right. Now,
so I'm wondering.
There was a dig in there. I don't know if it was a dig, but Punk said, who would be stupid enough to jump off the Tron? And of course, we know about, what was it, Animal, I think?
Hawk.
But Shane McMahon did it too, right?
Yeah.
So maybe a dig for Shane. Anyways, I look forward to another year of wrestling making a mockery of decency and you guys shitting all over it. So
that's what we're here for.
Thanks for the therapy. It's relieving as an 8-pound shit.
All right, man.
Thank you very much, Pat.
Cleanse.
All right, enemas galore. John, next up.
Let's go to Ken from Scarborough, line 1.
Line 1. Hello there, Ken.
Oh, my God. I don't know how I'm going to... Oh, shit. That guy was... Oh, he just stole all my thunder.
Yeah, Pat's pretty good, man.
Wow.
He definitely works his lines.
I bow down to him right now.
Yeah, he's pretty funny.
Let me tell you one thing. First of all, worst show I have ever seen from the WWE had to have been viewer's choice. I mean, we had to sit through 1 hour of 45 hours of pure shit before we got to that golden nugget, what was the debut of the Nexus. I don't know why, and it just proved that, hey, little kids can actually use a computer and a cell phone. Another thing, worst theme of the year, our troops knew, quote-unquote, joined. Get Grunk.
Well, it was so good they dropped it after, 2 weeks?
Listen, I'm a black man. I didn't know what the hell he was saying. And another thing, you were talking about the problems with WWE broadcast teams. Listen, Matt Stryker, he's bastardized it. Josh Matthews has son of a bitcherized it, and Michael Bowen, let's face it, he's bastardized, son of a bitcherized, and motherfuckerized all his entire legacy of broadcasting in the WWE. I mean, everything that JR and Gordon Soley, even Vince McMahon has done, has gone down the shitter because now the broadcasters are now characters.
Yeah.
And there's another thing you can thank for that. NXT. Why you have a bunch of divas doing NXT anyway? They have just made a mockery of new talent, and they just put them, line them up all in a row, and they just bang, 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 bang.
Yep.
And unfortunately, it was that shit that made Michael Cole a quote unquote
star.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Making him a character, it definitely, making any of them characters definitely hurts their broadcast, except for maybe, Lawler, because he's more than just an announcer. But, I mean, it does. The minute you start to do stuff like that, all their credibility, the little they have, goes out the window.
When all the credibility in 1 year goes to one guy who's not actually a broadcaster, he's actually a wrestler, for 2 weeks, he had more credibility than the whole team in the whole year.
Yep.
And TNA Hardcore Justice, let me put it this way. ECW was supposed to be dead and buried, as you said. What TNA did was exhume the body and decide to have necrophilia with it.
That's a good analogy, because that's pretty well what it was, fucking the past.
Well, I'm going to get out of the way. I feel cleansed now. Thank you.
All right,
you for
Ken.
this confession. Bye.
See you later, brother.
All right, there we go. Let's keep it rocking and rolling, John.
Let's go to Chris in Los Angeles on line 4.
Line 4. Hello there, Chris.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm actually in North Carolina this weekend. It's my grandmother's 79th birthday.
Nice.
Woo!
All right. Happy birthday.
Yeah. All right, thank you. And then also, I actually have a little bit of a list here, too. The worst movie star and a wrestler that I've ever seen is probably Knucklehead.
Right.
That was just painful to sit through. Worst TV show, I had to go with WWE Superstars, just because I never see the point of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen JTG and, the dude with the dreadlocks. I don't even know his fucking name.
You got to see a lot of Santino and Kozlov were a big feature on Superstars too.
Yeah, exactly. And then the worst angle was John Cena's retirement. That just annoyed me to no end. The worst gimmick was Orlando Jordan's comeback, and that whole thing with him. I hated it. Worst promotion, I kind of was going for a tie, because there was a lot of shit from WWE too, but after listening to y'all reminded me of everything that went on in TNA, I had to kind of give them the edge.
I don't think really, you're right, WWE had its bad moments, but overall, especially in the last part of the year, it was pretty strong, except for maybe Kane and Edge. But, I mean, it was pretty strong, whereas TNA just been consistently shitty the whole year.
Yeah, and then worst on the mic, I went with John Cena just for the post-retirement shit. None of the stuff he said had any logic, rhyme, or reason to it. It just really made me want to throw something at the TV every week. The Bellas for worst female wrestler, and then I went for a tie for worst male wrestler with the Nasty Boys and John Cena. And the reason why I picked John Cena is just the last quarter of the year, he was the most annoying guy on television for me. But I will say, for Agnew, I will say the one positive that came out of the Monday Night Wars for the couple weeks that they were there were the Law page lights up every Monday night. And it's just so much fun to watch all the guys, talk shit. And I love that board, man. I couldn't watch wrestling without it and without all of you guys. So you guys have been great last year, and I hope you keep it up this year. Thank you.
All right, yeah, Chris, thanks a lot, man.
Phone call. Rocking and rolling, John.
We will keep going and go to Mike in Chicago on line 7.
Line 7. Hey, Mike.
Hey, guys.
What's on your mind tonight, Mike? Worst of?
Well, first off, I had to say the worst of pay-per-view has to be Hardcore Justice. I mean, just watching that first match where they had that dance contest, I just knew the pay-per-view was just going to be shit.
Yeah, with
that's
the FBI,
true.
The FBI and that, yeah, brutal.
I have to say that the worst decision had to be the Edge heel turn, because they went like 5 months without him doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I have to say the worst.
All right, great. Thank you very much for the phone call.
I think what's happening here, Jay, is that a lot of people dealing with the worst of the year by using sedatives.
Yes,
I think
is
a
that
lot
what
of
they're
people
doing?
are trying to dope themselves out of the worst of 2010 because everybody seems to be half asleep.
I agree. Well, you know what they shouldn't be half asleep for is the Supersonic Prize Pack. We'll be having up in Tight About Trivia, which is coming right up. So give us a call if you want to play Tight About Trivia. It's 1-888-942-7326. Couple lines open, and those two lines will be used for Tight About. about. 1-888-942-7326. Call John, but as you guys call, John will put another guy on the air.
That I will. Let's go to Chad in Illinois on line 6, who hopefully is awake.
Yeah. Hey, Chad, are you awake?
I am awake. I'm
Congratulations.
actually doing a bunch of lines of coke a la the Von Erich style. So I am rocking and rolling tonight.
All right, what's on your mind?
Gentlemen, I'm going to take you back to January 4th, and what I feel is the first scoop of ice cream that was the shit Sunday of TNA this year. Imagine, you will, a red steel cage that you cannot see a goddamn thing through.
Oh, yeah, that was so bad.
And imagine a DQ finish in a cage match. And also, someone that cannot climb climb up the cage there and make it to the top. I love Homicide, but goddamn, that's the monstrosity that thing was. And more so, it just lasted, 5 minutes? And, with your X Division, you think you want to show that high-impact stuff that WWE wasn't showing at the time. And it more so led to Jeff Hardy supposed to debut, and then he didn't even come back for, a couple months afterwards? So it's like, hey, he's here, but you know what?
He's not here.
We'll just wait a little bit. That's my worst match of the year for me. And, it was said before, the Nasty Boys, they're my worst tag team of the year. They weren't even good in their prime, and they sure as hell were good, 10, 15 years later. Also, honorable mention to Team 3D, and also the worst angle of the year is their breakup. Again, didn't work, earlier this decade. Not going to work now. And then my personal disappointment of the year, it's nothing big. It's not even drop the ball, but my personal disappointment was when Tyler Black left Ring of Honor, Davey Richards didn't get the title. It kind of seems like, I know Roderick Strong, he's a talented wrestler, he's put his time in the company, but I don't know, he's just dry on the mic. I can't get really behind him. And Davey Richards, if I go to the ROH shows, and from when I go, he's the most over guy in the company. Why wouldn't you put the belt on him, especially when you're trying to expand, within the pay-per-view?
Yeah.
There's a guy you can get behind, and people, in my opinion, the wrestling fans that love pure wrestling, he's the guy almost like in a Chris Benoit sense, he's just a pure wrestler, high intensity that you can get behind. And that was just my disappointment of the year. Yet again, not a huge letdown. Like it's going to ruin anything.
I understand what you're saying because Davey Richards, he's definitely got more character and personality than Roderick Strong. That's for sure. And that's obviously why Roderick, they've got him with the Truth Martini there now, right? Just to
Truth Martini, who's good by the way. But yet again, there's I don't know. It doesn't really make any sense why Truth is, why they paired him up with it. They didn't really explain much of the backstory.
That's true. They didn't really give you a good story.
And, I don't know, Roderick, like I said, he's dry on the mic and great in the ring, but yet again lacking. So that's really what I got, guys, and I enjoyed the show, and I'll listen till the end here.
All right, thanks
Thank you very much for the phone call. Tight about John or another call?
We'll go to Tight About.
Tight about time.
And now, it's time to begin our first bout of the evening.
Good grief! Can you imagine the physicality?
This bout is one heck of a ring-ding-dong dandy.
Every time you think you got all the answers, I change the questions.
Go one-on-one. Get it done.
Not a shot, baby.
This is Title Bout Trivia with Jason Agnew.
I still got the belt.
That's the name of the game, ladies and gentlemen. So let's get to it.
All right, it's Tight About Trivia. And John, who is on the line? I forgot to get my pen. But tell people who are on the lines here.
Well, Jay, we're going to be playing with Scott from Pittsburgh, who is going to be on line 1.
I'll get there in a minute.
All right, and he's going to be taking on Charlie, who is driving a truck right now somewhere in South Carolina.
Wow.
On line 4. So,
All
Jay,
right.
we got Scott on line 1.
Scott on line 1.
Charlie on line 4.
And Charlie on line 4. So, Scott, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, and Charlie, you driving?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, don't get into an accident. I'd feel really bad. Pull over to the side while you play. You got to concentrate, okay?
All right.
Now, here's the deal, guys. We're playing for a wicked, wicked prize package today. It is our worst of 2010 prize package. This consists of a DVD copy of WWE Bragging Rights, which is the lowest bought pay-per-view this year. Along with that, we'll give you a copy of, is it UFC 112, John?
No, it's UFC 119.
UFC 119, and that features the stellar match of Frank Mir versus Pro Cop. And along with that, Gold Dust book will be going out as well, guys. So, whole bunch of... I'm serving you a shit sandwich tonight, and you're going to like it. So, first of all, Scott, it's first one to get two right, and you get to go first. Scott, your question is, who was Alicia Fox's rookie on NXT Season 3? Was it A, Maxine, B, Jamie, C, AJ, or D, Naomi? Scott?
I'm going to go with AJ.
No, I'm sorry. That is incorrect. It was not AJ. Alicia Fox's rookie was Maxine, which was A, Maxine. All right. Number two there for you was... Why can I not read this? Charlie. Why have I bad reading? How did I forget that?
Your handwriting sucks because you use a computer all the time.
I do indeed. All right, Charlie, next up here. Who was the first female eliminated on NXT Season 3? Was it A, Maxine, B, Jamie, C, AJ, or D, Oksana, Charlie?
Jamie.
Yes! Someone watched.
Wow.
Apparently.
I can't believe someone knows that.
Yeah. All right, Scott, back over to you. Who did not appear on the EV 2.0 pay-per-view? So that's Hardcore Justice. Who did not appear? Is it A, Lil Guido, B, Sandman, C, Rob Van Dam, or D, Jerry Lynn?
Jerry Lynn.
Yes.
You will become the god of men.
He was supposed to be there, but he was not due to an injury. All right, over to you, Charlie. If you get this, you do win. Who did Rhino face at TNA Hardcore Justice? Was it A, Too Cold Scorpio, B, C.W. Anderson, C, Brother Runt, or D, Tommy Dreamer? Charlie.
Tommy Dreamer.
No.
My life is being ruined by the internet.
It was actually Brother Runt who he faced on that pay-per-view. Dreamer was against Raven. Okay, match number 5 here, Scott. The UFC went to Abu Dhabi, and the main evented with Damian Maia versus Anderson Silva. What was the number of that pay-per-view? Was it UFC 112, UFC 114, UFC 116, or UFC 118? Scott.
112.
Yes!
A lucky guess.
Lucky guess.
I think that was a lucky
Now,
guess.
Charlie does get to even the score
Okay.
here. It's like it's the bottom of the inning, okay, Charlie?
I watched it, but it was a total guess.
Well, there you go. Okay, bottom of the inning, Charlie. You get the shot here. You got to get to stay in the game. Who was the main event for the Impact FC card that I picked for my worst main event for my worst MMA pay-per-view? Was it A, Ken Shamrock versus Pedro Hizzo, B, Josh Barnett versus Geronimo Dos Santos, C, Keith Jardine versus Trevor Prangley, or D, Alistair Overeem versus Fedor Emelianenko? Charlie.
C.
No.
I'm pretty sure he's brain dead.
That was the Shark Fights pay-per-view that had Keith Jardine and Trevor Prangley. In actuality, it was A, Ken Shamrock versus Pedro Hizzo. So congratulations, Scott.
Thank you.
A come-from-behind victory to win the shit sandwich.
Thank you, sir.
All right, hold on the line. John will take down your info, and we will send all that terrible, terrible wrestling stuff out to you.
There you go.
But as John does that, he will also set us up for our next caller on the worst of 2010 live audio wrestling program.
Well, it wouldn't be a complete show, Jay, without John from Arkansas on line 12.
Line
All right,
12,
let's hear
John. Hey.
I agree with everything that you guys have said on the show tonight.
Well, that's
100%.
Wow.
All right.
And as far as cleansing goes, God, if I only had a toilet so I could flush TNA's creative, because that's exactly what I think every time I watch the show.
It's so frustrating to watch, because all of us know that it's that one thing that's fucking up the entire promotion.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating to watch. They've got talent, they've got guys that can work in the ring. It's just that one thing, the fucking creative that like last week Genesis thought it was going to be a good show. No, creative ruined it once again.
Mm-hmm. And, you're right on the whole dropping the ball in WWE broadcast teams, too. That's That's a sad thing. I mean, remember when you used to clamor to watch a WWE show because JR made you so invested, and, you know, then they just kill everything, and then they put Michael Cole out there because he's the royal suck-up of all suck-ups to the creative team and to Vince, and, he's an Emmy winner. That's the big thing. Yeah. He's an Emmy winner. Ask him how well it worked out when they had Mike Adamle on the broadcast
Well, there you
team.
go.
Nice
Exactly.
job, dumbass.
No, it's tough. It's tough because really, to me, most of the best commentators, a lot of them have been past wrestlers. Now, it doesn't always work. It failed abysmally with Arn Anderson, but a lot of the times you need to get guys, and Punk proved it again. Punk proved it again for the 3 weeks he did it. He was amazing. Yep.
I mean, we want wrestling to do so well, but it just seems that the current climate is predisposed to making that not happen, whether it be a creative director in one promotion or somebody who's ashamed of wrestling in a head of television production or something of that nature.
Yeah, it's weird because, in TNA you have this guy in creative who thinks it should be a Hollywood movie or an action-adventure show. And then in the WWE, you have these guys that think, well, we're going to bring new talent on and we're just going to make fun of them. Like, that one to me is even more mind-boggling than the Vince Russo approach.
That's what's so awful. They set these kids up for failure. And the ones that they do it to more than anything else, if you notice, are the women, and you watch when Awesome Kong comes in there, I guarantee you they will drop the ball with her. They will ruin her. The same way they did the Hart Dynasty.
You could be right, man. You could be right.
It will drop faster than a lead balloon, I'm telling you.
Wow. It's going to be brutal. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what they would do with her. I'm surprised they even signed her, to tell you the truth.
Me too, because when I heard that, hey, I'm proud that she's getting the money. Hey, get your money, honey.
Yeah.
Get the money and run like you stole it.
Yeah.
Because you know that they're not going to put a whole lot of faith in you. Look at what they've done.
Who's she going to work? Who's she going to work with? Like, there's hardly anybody on the roster for her to work with. I mean, you put her in there with Kelly. That's it. Final match. She'll be done.
Unless they decide this is the time to give Gail Kim a push and have her go after Gail.
Yeah, I know you. I knew you want to see that.
I
feud
do.
Again.
I want to see it again.
That feud again. TNA did it, and Vince is so hell bent. He has to have everything his way, and he has to create it. So, since that came from somewhere else, we're not going to see that. As great as it possibly could be, we're not going to see it.
Yeah. She's probably going to be introduced as like the daughter of Bertha Faye or something ridiculous like that.
We as wrestling fans are going to get cheated like nobody's business when they debut her.
Yeah.
I've just come to that conclusion that they don't care. They talk about how they want to make all this money, but yet they set their talent up for failure. They completely ignore their fans and their fan base. And, in TNA, they are hapless and completely have no clue what they're doing. Hiring Hogan and Bischoff, that was a brilliant move, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for the call, John. We do have a few to get to here, but always good to hear your thoughts. And I guess I was hopeful of Hogan and Bischoff, but it just went back to the way it was. Everything old is new again. John, next up.
Let's go to Mark in Grimsby on line 9.
Line 9. Hello there, Mark.
Hey, guys. I got a few things on my top 10, my list here that you guys didn't get on.
All right, shoot.
Okay, for worst wrestler, I had to go with Great Khali because he botched that one match. It's my worst match of the year, the Top Rope Challenge.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He totally screwed that up with Edge and him. Yeah.
And my worst wrestler from WrestleMania, the Mixed Divas match, was Vicky Guerrero, where she tried to do the top rope splash, and she couldn't do it, and she had to jump off the rope again and do it.
Yeah.
Wonderful moments in professional wrestling.
The one they dropped the ball on is definitely Caval.
Yeah, well, he wanted his own release, I think, on that one. But I agree. I mean, you could say almost anybody on the NXT show except for maybe Wade Barrett. They dropped the ball on almost everybody. I mean, they made Slater and Gabriel tag team champions. Are they any further ahead from that?
Well, we don't know what exactly they're doing with Slater and Gabriel
because they were on SmackDown with Barrett.
Oh, they moved. See, I didn't see the last half because I was away. So
they came out and they were part of it. They came out and helped him on SmackDown.
So they're running over. So they really kind of split Nexus up.
It looks like it, yes.
Oh, yeah. So it's NWO white and red.
Probably, yeah. It's the red and black. Yeah,
we'll see what happens.
And I got one more here. Worst comeback, I have to go for Triple H because they only had his voice over the Vince dream there where Stephanie wakes up.
Yeah.
And everyone popped for him. Heard the voice, they popped, but they never followed it up.
Wow, we'll see what they end up doing
I'm
when
really
he does
curious
return.
to see what kind of year it's going to be for Triple H because we keep hearing more and more talk of him being more and more in control and working more with guys behind the scenes and stuff. And he's always been like I'm just curious if his vision starts to come out, how much will it change the product? Because he has been very vocal about stuff like NXT and doesn't think it's good and exposes the business and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if he would go back to a more traditional way of going about it or if he's going to take it in a whole new direction. I'm just interested because it looks like over maybe this year or next year we're going to finally start to see him kind of getting more influence.
We'll see if he pulls himself off television more as
well.
That's
it.
Keep himself.
That's what I'm thinking. Well, because it's never good when you're wrestling and you're the booker.
Yeah.
Like, it never works out well. You always end up, like, booking everything around yourself and everybody else suffers. So, I don't know. I'm very curious to see how that's going to play out over the next year or so.
Next up, John.
Let's go to Chad in Phoenix on line 2.
Line 2. Hello there, Chad.
Chad, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. What's up, brother?
I got two what the fuck moments
All right.
to add to the list. I don't know if you guys said this because I tuned in a little bit late, but during the TNA ECW pay-per-view, that interview with the gangsters, with New Jack and SoCal Val and Mustafa,
right?
Where Mustafa grabs her by the hair and kind of pulls her off like impending sexual assault, rape was going to occur, and then New Jack turns to Jeremy Barash and says, "Well, now you're my bitch."
Yeah.
Wow. Uncomfortable and unnecessary, and then you never saw those guys again. It's like, why would you ever put that in? It was just horrible.
Yeah.
And another one, I know you guys touched on it, was just for a guy that has to defend himself as a wrestling fan. I got a lot of friends that just constantly say wrestling's gay. That Orlando Jordan scene where he came out with that stuff on his chest, I had a room full of people just walk in the door. And, man, that was definitely what they said was, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And I've been thinking good about it ever since. So that's all I got. Thank you, guys.
All right,
Thank you very much
thanks
for the phone
call.
Let's keep going. We'll make these quick. Brian is calling us from Comrose, Alberta on line 3.
Line 3. Hey, Brian.
Good afternoon or good evening, gentlemen. How's it going?
Good, man.
A couple quickie worst ofs from you.
Well, every time you guys talk about the WrestleMania build-up from last year, I just got to shake my head. I've been listening to you guys for like 3 years now or so, and I agree with a lot of what you say, but I got to say, the build-up for that WrestleMania was nothing short of shit. I mean, the only thing they really built up really well was Taker Michaels.
Yeah.
Yes.
They didn't have any time devoted to any of the other build-ups. Like, even Hart was sprung, I'm not even sure, but it seemed like it was only like a week or two before Mania they brought Hart back.
Right.
Yeah, they really had challenges with that Bret Hart angle, hence why it ended up on our worst of list.
Yeah. Then they buggered up the Money in the Bank by including every person on the roster that wasn't in an actual match.
Yeah.
I mean, it went from being something that was somewhat dramatic, you have that one guy reaching for the briefcase,
right,
to just being an out-and-out spot fest.
Yeah.
They really need to bring that back, get it down to like 5 or 6 guys again.
Right.
Instead of including like 12 or 13.
Yeah, it's too many. You're right. I agree.
Yeah. So that was my big beef, and this year it's really looking like this is going to be the worst Mania in probably a decade.
Yeah, there's don't really know where it's going right now.
They've got some work to do after the Rumble for sure to put some stuff in motion because that's it. You usually can get a bit of. Remember not this past year, but the year before, it was right after the Slammies. We knew because Shawn Michaels made that thing and he kind of teased the Taker thing, and we kind of knew what was happening. Well, Slammies have come and gone, and we really don't know anything.
Well, that was the key last year, was that they had their whole top end of that card booked by January, and I think just some of the programs just peaked too early, like Brett Vince, and they got fuddled. But I thought Michaels Taker was a great build, and I thought last year was one of their better builds for WrestleMania, so I'll still maintain that. Let's just quickly end off here with Ted in Philadelphia on line 7.
Line 7. Hello, Ted.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Good, man. Good. Quickie worst ofs.
I have one what the fuck moment, and that was at the Hardcore Justice when after ended the Dudley Boys and the gangsters whoever beat the shit out of each other, they just hugged like nothing happened.
Ah, yes.
And I have that as my worst pick for pay-per-view. Like, watching that pay-per-view as a fan, watching Raven and Dreamer go at it with the barbed wire was like, what the fuck altogether. Like, put himself through all that shit for nothing, you know what I mean?
For nothing is key, because really just they shouldn't have done it, basically, is that pay-per-view just shouldn't have happened.
I'm not
Another
surprised
terrible
a
decision.
fan from Philadelphia would not like the Hardcore Justice pay-per-view. That does not surprise me at all.
Like spitting in his face, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, we're doing another one?
We'll squeeze one more in.
okay.
This will be the last call of the night. Richard in Winnipeg on line 5.
Line 5. Hey, Richard, your last caller.
Hey, what an honor, guys. Anyway, I'm going to make this really quick. My what the fuck moment was, of course, Orlando Jordan's him come back. And then one you guys sort of missed, worst trend in professional wrestling, major matches and title changes on TV.
Oh, I totally agree. There's way too many title matches on TV. Way too many.
Yeah, Survivor Series 2010 was really the epiphany of that for me on that subject.
Yeah, no, it's been bad. Especially TNA. They seem to have its title match every week.
Yeah, exactly.
Ridiculous.
It's just getting so annoying. It takes the total meaning out of the titles now. It's just so embarrassing.
It is. It's at the titles are at their lowest ever, I'd have to say.
Titles mean nothing. The only thing that means anything in professional wrestling is Undertaker's streak.
Yes.
And I'm not excited about Wade Barrett going after it.
Well, that's it. Or even, Ezekiel Jackson.
No.
Nothing. There's they're
Sting.
It's not going to happen, Mr. Black Scorpion. It's not going to happen. I don't honestly, I don't see it happening.
I don't either, but I would be excited about that.
I suppose it would, because he's never been in the promotion before, right? Okay, well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We're feeling good. This room is absolutely caked in shit at the moment now after all that. So we got to do some cleanup, but we want to thank each and every one of you for listening, not just tonight, but over the entire year, and, investigating the world of pro wrestling and mixed martial arts along with us, and we hope you stay with us this year as well. That's it. We're going to wrap for this week. For John Pollock, Jason Agnew, I'm Dan Lovranski, and we will be back again next week. It's live audio wrestling right here on The Score, Sirius 98. Home of the hardcore brother.
So am I still waiting a long time, waiting for tonight. Oh.
Listen to Review-A-Wai. Hey, buddy.
It's not fair.
What's not fair?
You're my best friend. You're leaving me.
A little bit. Well, what if I told you your best friend was adopting a kid today?
Really?
Yeah. I wouldn't leave you, man.
I love you.
I love you too. Well, it's a big show. Oh, it's a big band show tonight. Oh, baby, come on.
Welcome, everybody, to Review-A-Wai. It's John Pollock and Wai Ting, and we just finished up our worst of 2010, Wai, and what did you think of the show?
I thought it was tremendous. It didn't feel that long ago that the previous year was just there. It almost felt like it was just last week.
A lot of crap last year, Wai. I'm glad we got to summarize it tonight.
Yeah, I was really surprised by a few of your choices. Some of those things I actually didn't mind so much.
Well, Wai, we wanted to keep the theme going here with the worst of 2010, and thus we are going to review Knucklehead, starring The Big Show. And based on that trailer we have now seen for The Chaperone, it looks like we are going to have a definite candidate for worst movie of 2011 when that piece of shit comes out.
Oh, yes. Well, for those of you who don't know, The Chaperone is Triple H's new movie, kids movie, that is set to debut soon. You know what? While watching this Knucklehead show, I think doing children's movies is not such a bad idea for the WWE, because when you're doing a kids movie, you have tremendous leeway in everything, from writing to acting ability. When you're doing kids stuff, it just the bar is set so low because you're only playing to kids who don't know any better.
And results are low.
Yeah.
So it's, I guess, a lose-lose all around.
Well, unless you're 5.
I don't think any 5-year-olds were clamoring to see Knucklehead.
You don't know that.
I would make a large wager on it. Let's talk about this movie, Way. It took me only 2 attempts to finish this movie, 2 seatings. Now, the premise around this is that the Big Show plays a orphan named Walter Crunk at the St. Thomas School for Boys.
Walter Crunk.
It's time to get
Walter Crunk.
We're tired, everybody.
What a name, though.
Walter Crunk. This is our lead.
What? Like Walter Cronkite, but a crunked version of Walter Cronkite.
Maybe they were going to use our truth theme for this movie.
Okay.
The movie starts off in the orphanage, Way, where and Walter, everyone, he's like a 40-year-old orphan who's just never been adopted.
Yeah.
It's like Problem Child if Junior had never been adopted and just.
Huh? What?
Well, he was in an orphanage, and I'm just saying, had he never been adopted, he would have been that old guy.
Oh, that kid was adopted?
Yeah, he was by John Ritter and his wife.
Okay.
His legit wife. John Ritter died a few years ago.
Oh, God. All right. Thank you.
Is that your phone? Something important happening?
No, it's not. I'm going to ignore it. It's just an intern here.
Okay.
He's not important.
So we will start off here. They are performing a play of The Wizard of Oz. Some guy is playing Dorothy, and then we are introduced to this other orphan named Henry, who doesn't give a shit about this play.
He doesn't give a shit about anything. It's like he doesn't give a shit about this movie.
Well, he probably read the script with the same enthusiasm. He just said, sure, why not? I get minimal lines, and I get to use a British accent for 10 seconds.
He's an incredibly apathetic kid who, in this scene, is playing Toto in this rendition of The Wizard of Oz, and he could care less. He's playing video games.
Big Show / Walter steps in to play the Good Witch of the North, and they decide to lower him from the ceiling and come down.
That's his big debut. We see a lot of sight gags here. With
everything fucks up because he's fat. Ha ha. He breaks it, and the whole play is ruined.
Oh, fuck.
Then we cut to a scene in a gym, Way, where we are introduced to Eddie Sullivan. I'm not going to go scene by scene, but this is how I take notes, Way. This is it.
Oh, fuck.
2 pages of knucklehead notes.
How many stars do you give the past scene?
A dud. We meet Eddie Sullivan, who is alongside an MMA fighter who is identified as such. And
no, a bare knuckle fighter.
Oh, is he a bare knuckle fighter?
Okay, MMA fighter.
Who cares?
Whatever.
He says that he's going to make enough at the prelim championships so he doesn't have to hustle in dumps like this again. This is his exact things, and we've spoken before about exposition in movies, where a guy just in a sentence explains his entire character and his goals and his motivations. Yeah. And this was done here. And then we meet Earl, Memphis Earl, who's played by Dennis Farina.
Dennis Farina, what has he done?
He was in Get Shorty, I think.
Yes.
And I don't want to guess anymore, because he's...
Snatch.
He was in Snatch.
Snatch.
He's done, like, legitimate movies.
Saving Private Ryan, even.
and Knucklehead. Saving Private Ryan and Knucklehead on IMDb.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Dennis. He has his own guy named Red Rum, who he's getting ready for the championships. Just this jacked up black dude who comes in and he knocks out some white dude that Eddie Sullivan is training. And they say that Red Rum just got out of prison for parking tickets.
This is going to be
So basically, Eddie owes Earl money, and Eddie has to find this money in time, or else he's going to be killed by Earl and Red Rum.
Is that what they said? They're going to kill him? They're actually going to murder him?
They never say the word murder or kill. It's just implied that bad things will happen to Eddie if he doesn't get this money.
Okay.
So then Walter and Henry are at the orphanage. They're bonding, and Henry states that he just wants to be part of a family. And Walter says, "You are part of a family here with us." Then he farts. he leaves to go to the bathroom, and during this time, Henry is texting or playing Nintendo DS or something. And while Walter was cooking, everything catches on fire, and Henry doesn't notice this. And
Meanwhile, okay, go ahead.
Meanwhile, nothing.
Meanwhile, this whole scene, they're standing next to the bathroom with the fire extinguisher hanging right next to the bathroom.
Oh, really?
And nobody notices. They run.
Why would that be a set prop?
They run.
Why would they put that in there?
I have no idea.
Maybe it's just to convey they're stupid.
The Big Show attempts to put water into a frying pan and tosses the water onto the fire to no avail. Meanwhile, there's a fire extinguisher right in the scene.
So long story short, they burn down the orphanage. And then the insurance worker comes by and says that they need to be shut down for failure to have a kitchen. There is no orphanage left, but the bigger concern is there is not a kitchen. So then we get a scene right out of Legendary where the Dexter kid pled to the judge, where this kid pleads to the insurance broker that they need a home to stay in. And does this in a British voice for whatever reason, because I guess British equals sympathy. The insurance guy knows that he's working him and says, you guys have 10 days to start renovations, or else you're all going to watch this movie.
What's next?
This was all the setup, Wayne. Because then we're heading to church.
Oh, God.
And this is
Act 2.
Yeah, Act 2. Eddie is in the church, and he starts to pray. And he starts off by saying, hey, God, long-time listener, first-time caller, big fan of your work. And then he asks God to, quote, do him a solid. Now, they cut back to a scene where Sister Francesca, who runs the orphanage, is admonishing Walter for burning down the orphanage and starts hitting him with a stick or something and knocks Walter into a wall, and he falls through the wall into the church area, and Eddie looks up and says, that's a solid. Eddie then chats with Walter, Sister Francesca, and Mary, who is the orphanage assistant, about potentially fighting. And at first they turn him down, but Sister Francesca ends up talking them into it. And they ask, what are you going to get out of this, Eddie? And he says, I get 50% of Big Show's purse. I'm ditching the name Walter. I'm calling him Big Show from now on because I think people are confused.
Oh, fuck.
So they leave the orphanage. It's
this whole time, by the way, the Big Show was wearing this ridiculous-looking wig. And I mean wig.
Yeah, it's a wig. Looks really bad. I don't know. They're trying to get him across as this, like, adolescent man-child.
Yes.
So, Eddie leaves with Big Show and Mary. And they hit the road in a short bus.
Mm-hmm. Mary is, Jan from The Office.
Is she in The Office?
Jan, yeah, from the first couple seasons.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I never watched The Office. So on the bus, Eddie's teaching Walter the rear naked choke, and the plan is to go to all the amateur pro-am shows and then upload highlights to YouTube to get hits and gain interest for their big championship final in New Orleans.
Yeah.
So they want to create a viral fighting sensation.
Much like Kimbo Slice.
Yes.
This is the combination of Kimbo Slice, the Big Show, and he farts a lot.
Big Slice. The first...
I love the Big Slice.
The first show takes place... It's a little dirty. The first show takes place in front of some Jewish people with...
Oh God! WWE should just have you read out the scripts of their movies. It's far more entertaining.
Well, maybe if they heard this, they would realize how ridiculous this is. He fights a guy named Sugar Ray Rosenberg, the Jewish guy, and the fans in the crowd are all holding up signs like the Star of David.
They're holding Stars of David made out of paper.
Do you think if you're Catholic, you go to events and hold up a cross and the blood and body of Christ? Oh, my God. This was just so stupid. The first couple of minutes, this dude attacks Big Show with a barrage of shots. This was an easy 10-8 round to start. But then the guy got tired, and he gave Walter gave him a wedgie. And then Walter fell on top of this guy.
No, he gave Walter a wedgie.
Oh, Walter took the wedgie. All right. Big Show got a wedgie. He then fell on top of the Jewish man. And the Jewish man was so engulfed by his weight that he tapped out.
Fuck.
And Eddie feels that this fight was worth 1 million hits on YouTube after the smothering finish. And this is back in the hotel room, where on the chair, or on the table, for whatever reason, they had a KFC bucket, which I found amusing because that was a joke amongst some of the wrestlers. Yeah. When Big Show once came to a taping or something, and he had just the skin from a KFC chicken. He got rid of the chicken, he'd throw that out and just have the skin.
Wow, really?
Well, and all these guys are looking at him at disgust, like, man, we have to diet and kill ourselves to look like this, and you can just eat like shit, and you're not that talented.
Well, that's his gimmick in pro wrestling, and that is his gimmick in this movie. It's that whenever this guy eats fast food, he has to take massive shits. And
this is a recurring theme.
Yeah, and that is what we see in this scene when Eddie is talking to the Big Show, and the Big Show is on the toilet taking a shit.
Earl shows up at the hotel, and he approaches Eddie at the motel, and he talks to him, saying that he doesn't want them to
Who's Earl?
Memphis Earl, the guy they owe money to.
Oh.
That Eddie owes money to.
Saving Private Ryan.
Yes, the accomplished actor. He basically tells Eddie, don't go to New Orleans. Eddie says, we are going to New Orleans. Waste of a scene. Then Walter
give me more gay jokes and shit jokes.
Yeah, there's not enough in this. Walter talks to Mary about this being the first chance he's ever had to be a hero. Okay. So then the next day they're driving to their next fight, and Mary freaks out driving the bus because the engine starts smoking away, and they end up veering through traffic and into a cornfield, and apparently the brakes must have also been shot here because she never thought to stop the bus just to go wildly into a field because the engine was smoking.
Everything's off.
They drive into a tree. They smell gas. They get out of the bus, and the bus explodes. No more bus.
It just explodes. This never actually happens in real life. Cars don't explode.
No.
They can't.
Mary shakes herself around to flag down a trucker who's on a diet of Red Bull. And Big Show sits in the front with the Red Bull guy. And Eddie and Mary sit in the back with a bunch of immigrants and pigs. And I guess there's one moment where the Red Bull guy has to toss out a bucket of piss that he's been collecting over the course of his truck ride.
Oh, man.
Mary's upset at Eddie for this state that they're in and says she loves Walter like a brother and Eddie better not fuck them over and blah, blah, blah. Our next fight is at a child's home where we see Bobby J. Thompson, who, if you recall, guest hosted Raw to promote this movie.
I thought this guy was a big star in this movie.
He is in this movie for 5 minutes tops.
Yeah, not even.
He is a 6-year-old promoter using his parents' house as a venue. And they're getting him ready in the living room for the fight out in the back when this kid's dad shows up and starts yelling at all the fighters in the backyard and throwing shit. And Eddie's psyching up Big Show for his fight. Walter comes outside, thinks the dad is the opponent, and he shoves him through a fence. And this gets big viral mileage because he shoved a man through a fence.
Oh, fuck. How much more?
I have a page. Eddie's dad, who we were introduced in the first scene in the gym, is now in a hospital.
This dad is so weird. I didn't understand this dad's character at all.
No, and he was like, I would guess 5 years older than his son.
Yeah, this guy was like 45. And he talks like he's the calmest man in the world. He does like a Clint Eastwood impersonation. And I can't figure out...
That's the only time you will compare this actor to Clint Eastwood.
Well, but I can't figure out if he's supposed to be a good guy or just a bad guy.
Just shades of gray.
And in this scene, he is a pervert. He gets... he doesn't feel sympathy. Or he says the son shouldn't feel sympathy for him because he's about to get a sponge bath from the nurse.
Yes. He was put in the hospital by Memphis Earl and Red Rum as a message to Eddie. So then the Big Show, Mary, and Eddie head to a trailer park, and they meet up with Tina, who is a former dancer with Mary, but we don't know what kind of dancer. And
we see stripper poles holding up the trailer.
Yeah, very subtle. Because all strippers own a pole at home because they want to practice.
And they all live in trailers.
Yeah. They basically show up, and they ask Tina how they can find jobs because they need money. And she remembers a contest going on in town where you can fight Bare Knuckle Dave for $500. And Eddie starts teaching Big Show Muay Thai. Doesn't go too well. Then we get the makeover scene, where Tina takes Walter out shopping, comes back with a bald head, and he suddenly got these giant tattoos on his arms that we have yet to see all movie.
Yeah,
Amazing.
Back, she just gave him tattoos.
Yeah.
Shaved his head and gave him the tiger tattoo.
And Tina has a crush on Walter, but we don't know that yet.
Oh, and a pair of jorts.
Yes, he's wearing jorts here.
Jorts. Not just cargo jorts.
Yeah.
He was wearing.
So we go to the fight, and it turns out that Bare Knuckle Dave is an actual bear.
Bare Knuckle.
This was so lame because they continued to cut between shots of a real bear and this obvious mascot. So it was never
like a bear, like a man in a bear suit.
Yes, and it was just painfully obvious. Walter wins the fight with a bear hug, and they make sure to say that the bear is okay after this fight where Walter beats up an animal.
Okay.
Then they head to an all-you-can-eat buffet. Walter gets the shits on a bus, but he can't close the door, so the bus has to be evacuated. And they have to get the jaws of life to pull him out of this stall on the bus.
This was like a 5-minute long
stupid
gag
scene
about shit. Like at one point, they just spent a lot of time on this. Okay, so they had. If you ever wanted to see Paul White try to fit into the bathroom of a coach bus, I think this movie would be worthwhile for you to watch. He's crying as he takes a shit. They eventually have to evacuate the bus because everybody hates the smell. You can hear a woman cry about her dogs being left on the coach as Big Show is taking a shit. And then the firefighters get there. And yes, they say that they just spent the fact that they spent the paper to type these words out just makes me laugh because you have a firefighter actually saying this line. If this doesn't work, we're going to have to use the jaws of life to get you out. As the Big Show is sitting on the toilet.
What a terrible movie.
And we get a glimpse of the Big Show's ass as he's pulled out.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't notice that. Thankfully. Memphis Earl shows up at the orphanage with a fake wife, and they try to adopt a child from Sister Francesca, and she sees through them and tells them to leave. Then we're at a gas station, and this gang tries to attack Mary. So Eddie knocks one of them down, he gets outnumbered, and then Walter beats all of them down, and they go in, and Eddie grabs a security video to upload to YouTube. This guy's a hustler.
Yep.
Then we're at a campfire, and Eddie says he stopped boxing because of an injury to his penis, and he has hemorrhages. And we get a bunch of dick jokes. Seriously. This is what they do. They just trade a bunch of dick jokes around. Their next fight is at a frat house in Kentucky. And
Then a video.
Oh, it's a montage here of the fight at the frat house. Then they're in Kentucky. Then they go to Tennessee. We see Eddie and Mary start to flirt with one another. Eddie tries to kiss her, but he gets turned down. And then they arrive in New Orleans and for the big championship. And Eddie buys a suit for Walter and a dress for Mary. And they go out the night before a fight. Not a smart idea. And Mary gets hammered off of a margarita. And she fights the waitress Jiggles over Eddie. And she ends up, they go to a mud pit to settle things. And the waitress takes her clothes off. Then Mary takes her dress off. And she gives a reverse spin kick to Jiggles, who falls into the mud pit unconscious. And it leads to this somber walk home where Mary tells Eddie that she was going down a dark path until Sister Francesca saved her, and that she was a stripper. And Eddie's just shrugs his shoulders and does not care.
Yeah, that's what happened. Yep.
Then it's the day of the event, Way. It's the beatdown at the Bayou, airing on pay-per-view. Eddie forgot to register Walter for this fight, and they end up bypassing the commission because Mary yells out, "Have you guys seen the big guy on YouTube who shoved a man through a fence?" And they all cheer. And then she talks about the man who beat up all these guys at a gas station, and they cheer. And they allow them to bypass the registration, and Walter's in the tournament.
Yeah.
So we get a heartfelt moment here between Walter and Eddie. Winner of this tournament gets $100,000, kind of like the Jeff Jarrett Double M.A. exhibition.
Yeah.
Which would have been easier than going through 4 men. Walter wins his first fight with a kick to the chest. Second fight he wins with a sloppy rear naked choke. Then we're also following Red Rum here, who's going through his competition. The father shows up here for the tournament. And Eddie gives them the $4,000 they've made so far, saying, no matter what, make sure this money gets to the orphanage. And then Memphis Earl is here. And he approaches Mary in the ladies' room and tells her that Eddie really stopped fighting because he took a dive. And he's probably betting against Walter. And he's using you. So this leads to Mary confronting Eddie about where the $4,000 is. Eddie doesn't have it. So Mary's skeptical. But then we receive a note that Memphis Earl has taken Henry hostage, the other orphan kid.
Not just a note. This is a photo. And this photo...
It's like him over top of, like, on a pier.
Exactly.
Going into the water.
Exactly what it was.
It says Walter takes a dive or Henry does.
Yes, it was Dennis Farina from Saving Private Ryan holding a little kid at a pier over water.
So why would Earl want Walter to lose? Because if he won, they get $100,000, and thus Eddie can pay Earl what he owes him.
Is that what he's fighting him over? He owes him money?
I was very confused here because
he wants his own fighter to win. He wants Red Rum to win.
Why?
So Red Rum can have the $100,000.
And then Eddie has to find more money?
Yeah.
Okay.
It makes perfect sense. There are no logic holes at all.
So, the finals...
This nun just arrives from out of nowhere.
Yeah, Sister Francesca
She just comes to New Orleans.
Yeah.
Everything in the last 5 minutes, it moves so quickly.
The fight, the finals, it's Red Rum and Big Show. Leads to a shitty rear naked choke by Red Rum. But Walter powers out, and Earl yells from the crowd, "I've got your boy right here!" Now, if you took a boy hostage, would you take him to a giant public event and yell out that you've got him hostage here? This made no sense.
Yeah, they were looking for him. I thought he was supposed to be at the pier.
Walter makes a comeback after Mary yells for him to stay down, worried about Henry. And then Walter makes a comeback, applies a triangle off of his back.
No, it was actually a go-go plata.
Was it a go-go plata?
Yeah, it was. The same way Taker puts it on.
Oh, I thought he had a triangle. I thought he had the...
No, he's been watching his Eddie Bravo instructional tapes.
Well, there you go,
He's been practicing his rubber guard.
Then Walter gets the win. Earl ends up taking a taser shot from Sister Francesca, who has a taser.
Before he applies the Go-Go Plata, Walter fights back and says, as the music reaches a climax, "I'm just a knucklehead."
Great. That's right up there with Steve Austin. I hunt to kill.
Yeah. Exactly.
We've watched some terrible movies in the last while.
Okay.
Earl then gets tasered by the police, and he's arrested. And then the dad comes to Eddie and says, "I don't have the $4,000. I'm a gambling addict."
That we just found out.
Yeah. Great. And he said he can't resist an underdog. And Walter was a 20-1 underdog, and he put all his money on Walter. So theoretically, they
won
20 times the money plus $100,000.
How convenient.
And Eddie gives it all to Mary. And then Eddie and Mary make out in the ring, the exact same finish as Legendary.
The exact same finish as any movie. The exact same finish as any script written by a 10th grade drama student.
We fast forward in time. Walter and Tina are now a couple. And then Walter is packing because he's leaving the orphanage. And Henry is all depressed, sitting there. And Walter says, "Well, did you happen to know that I'm also adopting a kid today?" Henry replies, "Really? I couldn't leave you." And it ends with Henry saying, "I love you."
Oh.
And Walter, Tina, and Henry live happily ever after in Knucklehead.
The end. Oh my god. Oh fuck.
I hated this movie. I hated it.
Basically, every bad cliche imaginable.
We spent a half hour of our life reviewing that. Oh my god.
Oh my god. Oh man, at the end, the credits come up, and they list underwritten by 3 different names. It took 3 people to write this.
Yeah, it's like 33 minutes each. This was an hour and 40 minutes.
I know,
way too long.
3 people to write the poo jokes that were featured in here. And I can see it. I just, it's hard for me to comprehend how movies like this get made. Tons and tons of movies like this get made, but I can only justify it by thinking that perhaps these people, all the people that worked on this movie, were people that are just so jaded in their careers, that have been so, maybe at one point in their lives had really high hopes to become the next Spielberg or whatever. But now they're probably just on autopilot and are so desperate for work that they just created the most laziest, most generic, and completely unimaginative story in the fastest amount of time possible, just to make a living. Terrible movie, everyone. I give it a 1 out of 10. I give it
an 8.
You know what? If we're ranking this amongst my ranking is how easy this was for me to watch, and some of these shows that I've given lesser ratings to, they've really been unbearable to watch. This, for a movie, it was only an hour and 40 minutes, and it moved along. I give it a 4 out of 10.
Oh, it's very nice of you. All right, let's dive into our feedback. Before we start, I want to wish a happy birthday to one of our listeners, Harry Randall, who it was his birthday last week, actually.
Oh.
And he messaged me just moments after we had recorded Review-A-Wai.
Cool.
And he was asking if he could get a shout-out. So there you go, Harry. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
He turned 18. Let's get into this way.
All right.
We'll start off with some feedback to Legendary. Jermone Jackson. Weigh in, John. My hat's off to you guys. I don't see how you could sit through a viewing of Legendary. I watched Knucklehead on Netflix and tried to watch Legendary, but I couldn't stand to watch it past the 20-minute mark. Good thing, too, because I think if I had watched both movies back-to-back, my face would have melted off, like the Nazi in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes. Forrest Bowling. I can see the court now. Jeff is about to be pronounced guilty, but Matt runs in and says, Jeff is like a father to me. Then the jury has a good laugh.
Huh. Jack Pisco. Legendary seems like a movie worth watching by the way you guys described it in your review. I recently watched John Cena in 12 rounds, and if you think he's superhuman in his day job, it pales in comparison to his on-screen persona in that film. MNR was pretty good. Monday Night Raw was pretty good to start out the year, but I wish they had delayed the Miz and Morrison match. But then again, I think no one thought these guys would put on a great match like that. I know I didn't. Now with Orton in the number one contender spot again, I believe Morrison's push may have just ended. If I may make a suggestion for a possible interview, my choice would be for Chris Jericho's old lackey, Ralphus. I would love to hear about his time in WCW and on his work with Y2J and Norman Smiley.
And on that topic, we've received a number of suggestions for interviews from all you guys over the past few weeks. Daniel Stack, you guys should interview Lance Storm or even have him join you for a full review. He'd probably get down on that.
Yeah, Lance we have had on the show before. I'm sure we could probably work that out. Scott McCullough, I know Mikey Whipwreck has a series of sit-down DVDs coming out. Would love to hear an interview with him and perhaps Jim Mitchell.
Okay. Chris from LA. I have been listening to Law since 97, and the one person who has been ragged on the most for the greater part of the past 13 years is Ahmed Johnson. I can't think of one Law host who has not gone on a rant about him. The funniest rant was from the Mouth when he awarded him the Jabroni of a Lifetime Award. My eyes teared up from laughing so hard. I was a die-hard Ahmed fan because in the mid-90s he was the only real WWE star us black children had as a role model. But Jeff Merrick and Dan Lovranski's jokes about his lack of wrestling ability and horrible promos were always good entertainment. I would love for you guys, in particular John Pollock, to interview Ahmed and see what he's up to.
You know, Ahmed Johnson, I was thinking about this week. Everyone always talks about Randy Savage being like excommunicated from the WWE. And of course, Ahmed Johnson is not at that level, but he's never been brought back for anything. Like you never see him.
Oh, he was in WCW.
Yeah, he was in WCW, but I'm saying like of all these old school Raws and all of the stuff that's gone on, you never hear Ahmed's name really. But and he was pushed as a big star. He wasn't, but.
Well, you don't hear Savio Vega being brought back either.
Oh, no. Ahmed was pushed near the top. Like, he was at one point in that top-end mix.
But nobody has fond memories of Ahmed Johnson like they do with Superflex.
Absolutely.
Snooker.
But, I mean, you just don't hear anything from this guy. He doesn't have a website. He doesn't do interviews. You never hear him doing anything. Anyway. Shai Avigan. John, I'm eager to hear a Tony Schiavone interview. And if you dare, my friend, to go real low, how about the likes of Stephanie Wyant, Charlie Min, and your favorite, Todd Pettengill?
I would love that.
Charlie Min.
Oh, yeah.
Remember him? He was like the first Asian announcer the WWE ever had. He did like the Event Center promos.
Oh, I think we should have a panel.
He hosted the Action Zone.
Okay, well, look him up. Here and there, these are just some notes from around the wrestling world from all you guys. First of all, Ahmed Butt. I don't have faith in the WWE bookers to keep the title on Miz heading into Mania. This is partly why I think he'd drop it prior to WrestleMania 27. And I noted the Alex Riley possibility because of the serious tongue lashing he received from the Miz last week and other ill treatment he receives. As for Wade's future with the Nexus, I don't see how anyone will get behind him as a face so soon. If they want to build to a face... Okay, well, this is old, so... it's not relevant anymore. P.S. I, too, love Californication, so I know who Madeline Martin is. And it's creepy that she would show her boobs when she looks like a fucking 12-year-old. I have no idea what that's in reference to. What is that from?
From Legendary. She's the kid who was like, would flash guys.
Oh, that girl, okay.
Yeah, she didn't actually show her boobs in the movie.
But the character.
But the character does. Yeah, you don't see anything. Yeah, to be honest, I do believe Miz is going to keep the title till at least WrestleMania. I think he's done as good a job as possible with that title. I really find it so refreshing having him on top right now. And I don't see Riley anywhere near the level of the Miz. Even if Miz were to lose the title, for him to have a singles match with Riley would be such a nothing match to me.
I don't see that.
I think Riley's good in this role as just the lackey, and it's just it's not a program I see having WrestleMania potential in the least.
Right.
And finally, Brian Hillhouse. Who sets the ticket prices for UFC events? Well, the UFC does. I'd like to attend the UFC show in Toronto, but if the Rogers people have any say in ticket prices, and especially after the Bills and Toronto series failure, I imagine the cheapest tickets will still be pretty steep. More so considering that there actually is huge interest in the UFC in Toronto as opposed to the Buffalo Bills, and Bills tickets were obscenely expensive at first. I checked Ticketmaster, and while there is nothing yet listed for the Toronto show, tickets for the show in Las Vegas in February range from $85 to $790. We haven't seen the pricing structure, and in fact, they haven't even officially finalized what the seating structure is going to be, and whether they're going to configure the dome for 40,000 or even more, which they are also weighing. So that's the update there, and I honestly cannot tell you what ticket prices are going to be. They want to leave tickets at, oh my God. What a photo here. I'm looking at Joe and the Pope and puppies. Joe's going to film you.
Yes.
How clever.
From the mod. Funny.
So the prices, it's the UFC that will set them. And it's not worth us just guessing what they're going to price it at. So the tickets are going on sale, though, in early February. So that's something for you guys out there. So that concludes our review this week, everybody. Next week, we will be just a week away from the Royal Rumble.
Oh, yeah.
So
coming up.
I wanted to give a brief mention about our Royal Rumble pool because tomorrow I will be posting the link where you can go online and insert all of your information. Now, we are only allowing you to enter once per person. So we are going to be able to identify your name or your email address. So we'd appreciate if you guys just enter once and not try to just spam this entire site with your picks and stuff like that. And it's the same categories as last year: who enters first, who lasts the longest, and you can enter all of your information, and then we'll give out a prize to the winner.
Do you know the categories?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay.
But they're the same we did last year.
And then how do you calculate it? How do you calculate the winners? Whoever gets the most, right?
Yeah, it'll be the same point system.
Point system, okay. And is this like a program? Like a
Yes, I didn't design it, so I'm not too familiar with it right now.
So, okay. So do people just email you?
No, you're not emailing it. You're just inputting it into this, and then we receive it on the back end of the information you're inputting.
All right. Cool.
What could go wrong?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
So that'll be our Royal Rumble pool, which you'll have 2 weeks to input all of your stuff. And then in addition to that, next week, I thought we would review the 2005 Royal Rumble, because looking at this show, a lot of weird shit happened on this show.
Like what?
Like Vince McMahon blowing out both of his quad muscles.
Oh, yeah.
So I thought we could take a look at that next week as we head into the Royal Rumble. Mm-hmm. And as we head out, of course, go to Review-A-Wai.com and leave all your feedback. We'll be back this week with Review-A-Raw and Review an Impact.
You look very tan, by the way, John.
Well, thanks. I was on vacation for a week.
Yeah.
And I got a nice tan while I was gone.
Yeah, you look very tanned.
So, what would you like to hear on the way out here?
I'd like to hear a song that has absolutely nothing to do with the movie besides the title. And the title is called Knuckleheads with a Z by Raekwon the Chef from the Wu-Tang Clan.
Great.
Do it then.